Today on
Doomed!
Matt Gaetz, the alleged sex trafficker, and the former professional wrestler. For a second, I bet you thought I was describing everything that Matt Gaetz could possibly be. But then that pro wrestler thing sure threw you off, didn't it? Because Matt Gaetz certainly is not a former pro wrestler. Yes, that's right. Those are three separate people. And today, on this episode of Doomed with Matt Binder, we will be talking about the bizarre Matt Gaetz case and how this former WWE wrestler turned small-town Florida mayor has got himself all wrapped up into it now. And before we go any further on this episode, I will, of course, tell you all to support this show via patreon.com/MattBinder. Your support is always welcome. You can also support this show by subscribing to the YouTube channel at youtube.com/MattBinder. And listening to the podcast version of the show, or subscribing to the podcast version of the show, I should say, at doomedpod.com. Be sure to leave a review on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. And without further ado, let me pull up my guest for this evening on the screen, and myself as well. There we are, two handsome men right here. How you doing? How you doing, David? David Bixenspan, first of all. I can't believe I'm just acting. I'm completely thrown off. There's so much going on in the world today. I was watching.
Well, also, I was on like 3 weeks ago.
That's true. That's true. David Bixenspan. I hate to call you just pro wrestling journalist, even though I'm sure that's what you are, but your way of covering pro wrestling really wraps up so much more than just, like, you're not a dirt sheet writer. You report the news.
Thank you.
So like you said, you were just on a few weeks ago. Usually I don't like to have guests on so close together. A few weeks ago, not really. I think it was like 5 weeks ago. But still, I usually try to have a sizable gap between when I have guests on. But man, I just got to say, you're the perfect person to have on because, let's put it this way. If anyone for a second thought that, oh man, Donald Trump's not the president anymore, that's the last we'll hear about pro wrestling and politics. Ho! Are you wrong? I feel like it's ramped up from the Lauren Boebert, insane Lauren Boebert rumors that you came on to talk about 5 weeks ago, which I'm not going to get into that. Everyone should go to doonpod.com or youtube.com/MattBinder and catch that episode because it's a doozy. To this story here today, literally breaking just this week about how a former WWE wrestler became involved, wrapped up with the guy connected to Matt Gaetz that is basically going to take Matt Gaetz down, if I should say allegedly there's anything there. It seems like there is, but it's a crazy story on its own. And then when you bring in the weird, wonderful world of pro wrestling, I mean, you just get even more wackier. And then there's the QAnon connection, which you're going to tell us about. Obviously, it's all over the place. David Bixenspan, my point being, welcome to the show today.
Yes, I am happy to talk about how the only pro wrestler ever to have his DNA shot into space now appears to be wrapped up in Gaetzgate.
Really? Is that true? He had his DNA shot up in space?
Yes.
How did that... I guess we should start there. Well, maybe we should talk about who this wrestler is first. I really wanted to talk about the Matt Morgan... I just blew it. I really wanted to talk about the Matt... Too many Matts involved. Too many Matts. I'm Matt Binder.
It's even better. It's even better. When I was cross-checking everything for the little blog post I did today, I'm looking and I see, oh, wait a second, there's this guy named John Morgan who's a lawyer in Florida that seems to be kind of cozy with Joel Greenberg. And I'm thinking, well, wait, he seems to live in the same part of Florida. Could he be related? Doesn't look like it, but his son, who's also a partner at his firm, is named Matt Morgan.
Jeez, there's too many Matts. Too many Matts. We got Matt Gaetz. We got Matt Binder, who you're talking to right now. We got the Matt Morgan that you're talking about, and then we've got Matt Morgan, the pro wrestler, who we'll get much more into in terms of the Matt Gaetz story in a second. But first, I had no idea about this, completely unprepared to talk about this before the podcast because it wasn't even on my list here. What's the deal with Matt Morgan's DNA being in space? Is that some weird Elon Musk thing?
Well, I pulled up the press release from 2008. Realized we forgot to mention to you that he's also a former American Gladiator cast member. He was on the Revival as Beast. So anyway, here we go. Business Wire, Austin, Texas, August 13th, 2008. NC Soft's Operation Immortality and world-renowned pro wrestler team up to send genetic fingerprint to International Space Station. Matt Morgan, known as Beast on television's American Gladiators and a professional wrestling star for, at the time, Total Nonstop Action or TNA Wrestling, has signed up to have his DNA sequenced and digitized and sent to the International Space Station with gaming legend Richard Garriott in October.
Is that the Pac-Man guy? Because I
don't know.
Richard Garriott? I mean, obviously this is completely inconsequential to the topic.
Garriott. I don't know.
Richard
Garriott will take so Marriott, but with a G and two R's. He'll take DNA samples from select individuals on the quote-unquote immortality drive, a storage device that he'll leave on the International Space Station as part of NC Soft's Operation Immortality and his latest game, Tabula Rasa.
All right, he
Morgan,
made a bunch of games that I have no idea, that I'm honestly completely unfamiliar with.
Okay. But Morgan, who stands 7 feet tall and weighs 320 pounds, has been described as, quote, the most genetically jacked, athletically stacked giant in the world. I think that was his catchphrase or something. Early in his career, and still today, Matt Morgan was given the name of the Blueprint, here in this name, because some believe Morgan is not just considered the blueprint for how big men will be portrayed in wrestling in the future, but also because he's a blueprint for the paradigm of human genetics and physical potential. I can't read the rest of this. I'm sorry.
Okay, apparently Garriott made Ultima Online, the whole Ultima series.
Okay, so that's why he's a gaming legend.
Yes. I mean, that game I feel like hasn't been... I mean, I never played it. I just know the name. I feel like it hasn't been relevant in very long, but maybe I'm about to get owned by all the gamers who listen to this show. He also made City of Heroes and City of Villains, which both sound familiar to me. I don't know why.
If they were the online multiplayer RPGs where you created your own superhero or supervillain.
Right. Well, okay, wonderful. Let's get to the the Ultima Warrior, right? Let's get to today's topic. Now that I know that Matt Morgan, this is gonna really affect. Like, this is gonna be a hell of a show with me constantly having to stop myself before I say Matt Gaetz when I mean Matt Morgan, and Matt Morgan when I mean
just
Matt
say
Gaetz.
Morgan and Gaetz.
Right.
Don't bother with the first names.
Right. Yeah, that first name. What kind of idiot has the first name Matt anyway? Let's.
I mean, you're talking. I'm currently living in an apartment where I have 3 roommates and 2 of them are named David.
For a second, I thought you were going to say you had 3 roommates and all 3 of them are named Matt.
No, that would be terrible.
Right. That would be right. All right. So, David, which David are you, by the way, in your abode with all your roommates? Are you David number 1 or David number 2?
We have it numbered.
Okay. So let me crack open a soda here, and because we're gonna really get into it here today. So
you got to get a gate for that new mic because it shouldn't have picked that up.
Oh, really? Yeah. If it didn't pop, I'm fine with it.
No, it did. I'm saying it did. No,
I'm
saying I was surprised with the new mic that I
got this new foam thing too, and every windscreen. Oh boy. All right. Anyway, so Matt Gaetz. For people who aren't familiar with what's been going on with Matt Gaetz, I don't know if you've been living under a rock or you just have the words Florida or Florida man or Florida Republican
or Seminole County, which I mean, if you
blocked on your computer,
Seminole County blocked on your computer, like that's probably making your life better.
Yeah, right. I completely get it, but anyway, what's the deal? And I've covered it on this show, but for people who are just tuning in and have no clue, what's been going on with Matt Gaetz, David?
Well, on March 30th, so now a little over 2 weeks ago, the New York Times reported that he was caught up in the investigation of former Seminole County, Florida tax collector Joel Greenberg, who has been hit with, like, what is it now, over 30 federal charges, I believe?
It's a lot.
Ranging from stalking to child sex trafficking to... I haven't looked at the full list of charges, but I'm sure there's some corruption stuff in there. I would think so, based on some of the stuff we're about to talk about. And
oh yeah, I've been seeing reports about him throwing money all over the place, literally funding. I swear I don't remember all the details, but he was funding a Bitcoin operation with taxpayer money. Like he bought all the equipment to like mine Bitcoin or something like that.
That sounds right. Yes, which interesting to also to like be into crypto and then be dumb enough to not use crypto for anything you did.
Well, we'll get there in a second. I think we're jumping ahead. But good tease.
So anyway, so the initial report, I believe, was something about how Gaetz may have had a sexual relationship with a 17-year-old. That in and of itself is legal in many states. 17 is the age of consent in many states, including here in New York. But she's still technically a minor, and apparently the investigation was looking into whether or not he paid for her travel, etc.
Right. I think we should really drive home there that in Florida, the state where Matt Gaetz and Greenberg and Matt Morgan, who we'll get to in a minute, and where this all took place.
It is 18, right?
It is 18. It is not 17.
Well, what am I talking about? We just talked about this on the last show.
Right. So in Florida, Matt Gaetz would not be able to have relations with a 17-year-old without it being illegal because she would be a minor.
Right. This is a federal investigation, though, we should know.
Because you'll get to it.
As I said, the alleged paying for travel and across state lines aspects.
Yes, this guy Greenberg was apparently flying in ladies over the age of 18 and girls under the age of 18, if I recall reading. So really just anyway, this guy was just trafficking minors and women, from what I recall reading, from all over the country. I mean, this is allegedly.
Yes. And Gaetz, was it that night or the next night? I think it was that night, right? He went on Tucker Carlson, put on an absolutely bizarre performance that quickly turned off even Tucker, because he was like, well, a couple years ago, you and I, and I think he said maybe your wife or whatever, got dinner, and I was with, you'll remember the woman that's apparently at issue here. And Tucker's awful. I genuinely believe him when he was just like, I really don't know what you're talking about. He seemed absolutely shell-shocked that this was going in that direction. So anyway, since then, Gaetz, he's been blaming the deep state.
It was the first time I've ever seen Tucker Carlson make that Tucker Carlson face.
But genuinely. Yeah.
And it actually fit the moment, right?
Yes. So he called it, I believe, I don't remember the exact wording. He called it some variation on the strangest interview he's ever done. And since then, Gaetz will blame the deep state. Gaetz will point to Project Veritas putting out, I didn't watch both of the CNN videos they did this week, but one was just some technical director who was clearly making an obvious hypothetical when he was asked to define propaganda, and they tried to spin it as CNN is trying to destroy Matt Gaetz. He just used the Gaetz story in the obvious hypothetical. So there's all sorts of right-wing defenders working with him, but there are definitely some who are staying silent. there were stories about Trump trying to distance himself. Trump put out a press release saying he is not doing so, blah, 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 fake news, anonymous sources. And really what's been going on overall, though, is there has been a very steady drip, drip, drip since the Time story of Matt Gaetz and Joel Greenberg related stories, many of which have involved public record requests and public records otherwise available online in Florida, and those being put together to kind of figure out some of what's going on, as well as people who had saved copies of Matt Gaetz's Venmo activity, and I think maybe also Greenberg's, that passed them on because they left all their transactions on public, and it included transactions that appear to be payments to women for sex.
Right. And, the idea that you would use Venmo for this is just amazing. Like, the most public transactional, platform. Like, you could have wired the money, used your credit card, obviously they
crypto, you embezzled government money to invest
you could set up a Stripe account, a PayPal account. This would all have left a trail.
It would have left a trail regardless.
But Venmo is the only one that leaves it out for the public to view if they just go to your Venmo profile.
Yes.
It's just amazing. And it's like they didn't understand. And I recall reading about it a while ago where people just were not aware that this was an actual thing, a couple of years back, where people were actually not aware of that sort of aspect to Venmo, where all their transactions were being published onto their profile by default, unless they ticked something in their settings that basically set their transactions to private. So this isn't...
Which I did the minute I got Venmo.
Right. So I want people to understand, because people might be reading this, listening to this, or reading the Matt Gaetz stories that are out there and thinking, there's no way someone's that dumb to do this. Maybe those things that he claims those payments were for, he's actually telling the truth. Well, no, the idea is that this was something that completely tripped up a lot of people who were using Venmo. So it is completely in the realm of possibility and more than plausible that Matt Gaetz would use Venmo without realizing that Venmo was publishing all of his transactions and all of the details in that he left in the description for the transactions to his Venmo profile. And the things that he was describing when he made these payments, hundreds and hundreds of dollars in different transactions, like $400 here, $600 there.
Well, no. The first Daily Beast story, I know there was subsequent Venmo reporting I haven't read yet, I think also at the Daily Beast. The first story was, I forget if Gaetz sent Greenberg a single $900 payment or three $300 payments, but immediately afterwards, Greenberg sent three $300 payments, well, one each, to three different girls labeled, I think, as school or tuition or books or whatever.
Maybe it was for Nestor, right? Anyway, but then later on there were Venmo stories that came out that basically gave some of the the descriptions, and the dude was using different codes for the transactions, payment for salad, for example.
Yeah, that's the story from yesterday that I haven't read yet.
Yeah, and it's funny because the QAnon conspiracy theorists, a lot of overlap there with the Pizzagators. The Pizzagate people basically became QAnon believers. And their whole shtick was that all these pizza references in the leaked Podesta emails were implicating various Democrats as, having trafficked minors or having had sexual relations with minors, and that the descriptions of different types of pizza is really code for what they wanted in terms of the sex trafficking. For example, when they said pizza, that was talking about children. If it was pepperoni pizza, that was a certain age or a certain
whatever,
gender, or mushrooms meant something else, and but here we have a a very obvious thing where that's happening. And there's actual legitimate allegations connected to it. And they're defending him. They're saying it's not true. It's not true. No way. Not true.
Oh my God.
He was just getting salad. Come on. $400 salad. Come on. Getting a couple
food.
Right. Getting a couple pizza pies for a political campaign. Totally child trafficking. No doubt about it. $600 salad? It happens. Have you seen the prices at Chopped lately, David? They're getting expensive. It's getting expensive.
So having not read this story till just now, I'm kind of surprised that this part did not get more play. Gaetz made only one previously unreported transaction in the newly obtained documents, a payment from the Florida congressman to the former Seminole County tax commissioner for $300 on November 1st, 2018, with the Love Hotel emoji in the memo field. The Daily Beast was unable to tie that transaction directly to any woman, but confirmed that Greenberg booked one night for that date at the Alfond Inn, a luxury hotel in Winter Park, Florida, which is it's Orlando suburb.
It's obvious, David, that when you use that Love Hotel, is that what you said?
Love Hotel. It's a thing in Japan, which it's a no-tell.
There's an emoji for that? There's an emoji for that?
I had no idea that there was, but it is on display here.
Can you send that to me so I could pull it up on the screen?
Let me...
A Love Hotel emoji. Well, anyway, David, as you said, while you send that to me,
I'm sending it in the chat. Yep, there it goes.
As we all know, a Love Hotel. Oh, okay.
It's a Japanese no-tell motel that is more specialized and explicitly for sex.
Right. So here's the thing, David. We all know that when a Republican congressman is paying, is involved in a transaction for an exorbitant amount of money, $400 to $600, and they use the Love Hotel emoji, then that is actually the secret code for ordering actual pizza. That's just how it works.
Okay, so by the way, since it came up, I do feel like finding the emails weird from Podesta and possibly code for something. I don't think that's ridiculous. They do read strangely.
I mean, he's
child sex trafficking is obviously ridiculous.
He's ordering pizzas, man. I mean, he's ordering pizzas.
Yeah, okay, sure. That's why there are that weird email about, someone, you left a handkerchief that appeared to have a map on it that was pizza related.
Wait, what?
Yeah, that's one of the emails.
I don't remember that one. But
yeah, there is stuff in there that doesn't really make sense. Do I think it's about child sex trafficking? No.
I'm not going to go there with you, David. Let's get back to this.
Okay.
All I know is that pizzas are extremely easy. The actual food, I don't want it to be taken out of context here. The actual food item where you have that piece of bread that you cook in an oven
the sauce, the cheese.
With the cheese and the sauce. Extremely easy food to eat while on the move. So, if you are working for a political campaign and you're doing stuff and you need a quick dinner while working, pizza is an incredibly convenient meal.
You get the slice, you do the thing with the plate, you fold it, etc. All right, so anyway, I guess now we should move on to Matt Morgan.
Let's move on now to Matt Morgan. Where does this come into play? I don't think I should be shocked about this anymore. I think it should now become the norm. You should consider this whenever you hear some political scandal or insane political story, that at some point a professional wrestler is going to get involved somewhere along the line.
Especially if the phrase Seminole County comes up at all.
All right, well, so maybe you should start there, actually, before we get into Matt Morgan. What is the deal with Seminole County? I'm actually not that familiar. Is Seminole County known for a particular brand of scandal? Do they have a lot going on there?
Well, no, not exactly. It's just that it seems like everything in my life just keeps revolving around Seminole County. Longwood, where Matt Morgan was at one point the commission-appointed mayor and is still part of the city commission. That's part of Seminole County. WWE Q-pilled referee Drake Wirt, who has now just become that guy at town meetings and stuff like that. I believe is in Seminole County. There are going to be plenty of wrestlers in Seminole County just because wrestlers flock to Florida anyway because of the no state income tax, but also specifically because WWE's Performance Center is there. So anyone new that signs with WWE moves there. Seminole County directly borders Orange County, which is where Orlando is, and a bunch of the Orlando suburbs are in Seminole County. Right. So that ties into that. So you got the Drake Hortz thing. You got Matt Morgan, and Lauren Boebert, of course, is originally from Seminole County, Altamont Springs.
This is amazing. This is fantastic.
Oh, I mean, I tweeted it Tuesday, and I wasn't kidding. I'm kicking myself for not thinking about this as soon as I saw that Joel Greenberg's thing was Seminole County tax collector.
Right. Because that's where he was, right? That's where he was taking all that taxpayer funds and spending it on Bitcoin mining supplies.
Yes.
Amazing. So let's get into Matt Morgan now. So Matt Morgan's this former WWE wrestler. He's like 7 feet tall. He's got like...
He's a legit 6'10" at least, yeah.
Yeah, he's a tall guy. If people don't know in wrestling, they add a few inches to your build height. Because Vince McMahon has a history of liking larger athletes, larger than life superstars.
Well, they do that everywhere in wrestling, though.
Right, that's true.
But if someone was in WWE and they were billed as a 7-footer in WWE, because everyone in WWE, for the most part, or at least for a long time, was so much bigger than wrestlers everywhere else because they were trying to only hire bigger guys. If WWE was calling someone 7-footer, you can trust that they're at least 6'8" legit.
Right.
6'8", maybe 6'9".
Right. So Matt Gaetz has the complete look that Vince would like, but he went nowhere in the WWE. Is there any reason for that, you think?
It's strange. So
I mean, you got this tall guy. He wasn't like, he wasn't like a meathead. He had like a good wrestling physique. A lot of times you get these big guys and they're just like either just like big and bulky and they just don't look like they can move around the ring. Whereas Matt Morgan was he looked like an athletic guy.
Yeah, he was a good college basketball player, if I remember right. Looked good, but didn't look like overly muscle bound, like that it would affect him athletically. Good public speaker, at least when he was in their developmental system originally.
And then didn't they give him a stuttering gimmick, if I recall correctly?
Well, that's where I was going. He had developed into a really good wrestling talker, and then when he got called up to the main roster, he was quickly given a stuttering gimmick. And then he was gone, and... I
thought people understand I'm not laughing at stuttering, I'm laughing at the fact that Vince McMahon would see a large guy who, according to David, could cut a good promo, which means he's a good talker, which is a hugely important skill to have in pro wrestling. And Vince's first thought is to look at him and go, "We're gonna make him stutter." I mean,
that was probably one of the very first examples. There have been more lately, but it's become increasingly clear that even being Vince McMahon's dream wrestler will not save you these days. He's just too far gone. It's like, look at Braun Strowman. Braun Strowman is 400 pounds of muscle and developed into a very good performer pretty quickly, gets good fan engagement, etc. And they just never really would pull the trigger on him. Or Mandy Rose, who is Vince McMahon's dream woman, former fitness model, implants, blonde, but really athletic and turned into a really good wrestler. And she's been mismanaged. And Matt Riddle, before the whole rape accusation thing. I
feel like that's a story in and of itself, so we shouldn't get too into that.
Well, yes.
But let's get back to...
No, but just they've been pushing him anyway, and you would think he's Vince McMahon's dream guy because he's a jacked former MMA fighter who looks like Kerry Von Erich, and still, they don't do anything right.
Right. So let's get back to... Morgan's he failed in the WWE. They released him after some time. Was there any reason for his release, or just caught up in the usual...
The usual, yeah. So he goes to TNA.
WWE spring cleaning.
Yeah, he's there for several years, does American Gladiators too, and kind of fades away. He never really clicked in TNA. It's possible that him being a like actively good promo was more the coaching he was getting in developmental, because it was still the Jim Cornette developmental, and if nothing else, Jim Cornette is really good at that type of thing. And just settled into local politics, and that's where things are. So yes.
So how did he become the mayor of what's the town?
Longwood.
Longwood, Florida. That's a small town. What's that?
I was doing the Vince Goddamn palette, the name Longwood.
Oh, right. I mean, really fits this whole ridiculous story perfectly, doesn't it? How does he become the mayor of Longwood? Does he get elected to that position? How does this work?
No, so he was elected to the city commission. Then he was appointed by the city commission to the mayor position. It's not an elected mayor, which I think a lot of people don't realize. There are a lot of cities that have city managers and mayors that are not elected.
Now, I'm guessing this wasn't a full-time mayoral job, though.
I'm not entirely sure. Like, it was, like, is it kind of like just the head of the commission? That I haven't dug deep into.
Because isn't that the deal with Kane in Hard Knocks, Tennessee, where he basically...
No. Knox, so, he is the mayor of Knox County. It is, I believe it is a full-time position.
I called it Hard Knocks, didn't I? Knoxville County, right.
No, but Knoxville, the biggest city in Knox County, has its own mayor.
Right.
And as is the case with many of these places, the actual city leans heavily Democratic. Knoxville has a Democratic mayor.
Right.
Knox County, including the more rural areas,
has the big red machine.
Yes, exactly. Literally.
Right.
In every way.
Right. Yes, he's red as can be in many ways. Right. God, it's a good thing he has very limited. He has very limited actual powers, doesn't he? In terms of how.
Yeah.
I think like the pandemic is the best thing that happened to him, because he could actually make some like health code declarations in terms of like the mask rules, which he's been horrible on, if I recall.
But he was only one vote on that, I believe.
There you go.
So, I mean, I believe it's more of a traditional mayor job than Morgan's, but still, you get what I'm saying. Anyway,
right.
So, I guess the last thing before we get to Tuesday is that, as we discussed months ago, Morgan got wrapped up in the anti-child trafficking movement.
There we go. I should let people know that you came on completely separate from the Lauren Boebert episode from like a month and a half ago. You came on last year. I think it was like late summer.
It would have been end of September, beginning of October.
There you go. Late summer, as I call it. And you had a story about how, really, it was a wrestling story, but you actually, honestly, and I've seen a lot come out about this organization since. Yeah. I think you were the first person to really dive deep into that organization. What's it called again?
Operation Underground Railroad, yes. Operation
Underground Railroad. You were the first person to really dig into that group. And for people who are unfamiliar, Operation Underground Railroad is alleged because they call themselves that, anti-trafficking group organization that's literally just seems to be a front for this guy to be able to raise funds and really push quasi-QAnon type conspiracy theories.
Yes. So, yeah, it was back in September, stemming from a fundraiser for the charity that Q-Build referee Drake Wirtz was organizing in Longwood at the public park there. Morgan got involved and has done some other anti-child trafficking stuff since, but not necessarily with Operation Underground Railroad. I was a little unclear on what it was, so I haven't pursued it too much. But he's been involved in all that, and there wasn't much new for a while. Then there was Tuesday. Orlando Sentinel puts out an article, not just about Matt Morgan, but covering how they had gotten records, including, I believe, an audit report about the tax collector's office, which I got one of the documents that they used that I didn't have from one of the Sentinel reporters. I actually forgot to ask for the audit report, unless that's online and I didn't realize it. But combining that with then getting records of disbursements and blah, 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 they found out that Greenberg, in his capacity as tax collector, gave Matt Morgan and his brand new LLC that he had just started a little over $40,000 in payments that were seemingly for a no-show job. And like tax collector's office told the Sentinel that they couldn't find a contract or really any proof of any work. That part was for the auditor's report.
So Greenberg basically just handed over a bag of 40 with 40, like a suitcase, a briefcase, money in the bank briefcase with $40K in it to Matt Morgan. What was the title of this job again?
I don't think it said anything. I think there was an internal like directory, I think, that said that he was being paid to help promote like their social media or something weird. But yeah, the first payment was I believe, yeah, it was $4,500 on, I believe, October 30th, 2019. And then from then on, he invoiced them for $2,250 every 2 weeks through the first week of July of last year. Yes. And of course, the company, by the way, is Blueprint Enterprises, LLC.
It's very convenient.
Yeah.
So what did Matt Morgan do with that $40K? Do we know?
So I'm looking into this more, and we'll probably talk about that later and off the air. But what the Sun Sentinel found, they put together with some public records that were already accessible online that they wouldn't have even had to do requests for. And they noticed that he set up the LLC on October 7th, 2019. He was discharged from a tax lien for close to $40,000 2 days later. And then it was at the end of that month that he started receiving the payments from the tax collector's office. And no, he did not respond to their request for comment. More on that in a minute, though.
Oh. So has the minute passed? Can we get into what? Can we get into that?
Well, yeah, of course. But I mean, you seem surprised, even though I know you read it because you took the photo from it. But
right. No, I did read. I did read it, but it is. As I'm putting it together in my head while you're telling me this, more giving myself a more clear, picture of what went on here. It's surprising me all over again.
Yeah. So I'm doing some digging around, and I see something in some tweets replying to someone. I go check it out. That there had been a deleted tweet of some sort.
Here we go.
So I did a post about this on my Substack blog, which I'm sure we'll plug later, and you'll link in the show notes.
Of course. I already have the...
Oh, and the YouTube thing. Great.
Right. I'm pulling up that tweet right here over me. Why don't you describe it to everybody?
Okay. So this is last day of February 2019. Morgan went to a fundraiser for another local politician where he says he met Matt Gaetz in person for the first time. And if I don't have it right in front of me this second, obviously I can pull it up quickly. He did stress that it was the first time they met in person. He did imply they already knew each other. Let me see real quick as I scroll down to the screenshot I did. Because thankfully there was still a Google cache. So it says, Larissa, who's Morgan's wife, and I had a great time tonight supporting our bud at Jason Brodeur for #Republican Florida State Senate. It was great to finally meet at Matt Gaetz in person. Thank you again so very much for the encouragement and for paying attention to what some of us small town city leaders do, with photos of him with Brodeur, Larissa Morgan, and Matt Gaetz. How do I know that this was deleted, and how am I about to explain to you when it was deleted? That's because Gaetz retweeted it. ProPublica has a publicly available database on their website called Politwoops, that tracks deleted tweets from all sorts of politicians. Morgan deleting the tweet because Gaetz retweeted it triggers it being a deleted tweet as far as Politics is concerned.
That's great. We should, there should be a political account that just retweets every tweet
Oh,
just
I'm
to
sure there's
archive it.
supposed to be a bot already for it. I'd be
Yeah.
shocked if there's not. So I'm looking at this and it's like, okay, it's deleted April 7th, a little after 2 a.m. So that would be...
And this tweet is from February of 2019.
Yes. And so he tweeted it late Tuesday night last week, early Wednesday morning. And so, yeah, he's doing it in the middle of the night and over a week after the Gaetz story first broke. You would think that maybe the catalyst for this was the Orlando Sentinel reaching out to him initially. It was not. I checked with them. They did not reach out to him until Friday. So
he knew something was up. Or there's something that he knows that we don't know yet. Do you know what I mean?
Right. I would think if he was just... again, I don't want to project onto this. We should stress he has not been directly connected to any sex trafficking or anything.
Oh no, I don't think. Wait, who knows?
No, I'm not saying that either,
right.
but it feels that way because you would think if he was just gonna do this over the Gaetz story breaking, he would have done that in the previous 8 days.
Right.
So, who knows what's up with that? But there's another wrinkle to that, and if you look at
to me the implication here from Matt Morgan, to me, the issue isn't so much that he's connected to Matt Gaetz in some way. That's for people who are paying attention, because obviously a sitting U.S. congressman is implicated in a alleged sex trafficking scandal. Obviously, that's the big deal here with Matt Gaetz. He's the central core of why this matters. However, if you're Matt Morgan...
Well,
nationally speaking, yes. But if you're Matt Morgan, it doesn't matter if you're connected to Matt Gaetz. That's whatever about that. To me, the interesting thing, and that we already have a connection to, is how does he know Joel Greenberg, the alleged sex trafficker at the center of all of this, enough where he's getting a $40K non-existent no-show position? Now, that's the question to me. If I was Matt Morgan, I wouldn't care about that photo with Matt Gaetz. I'd be caring about my connection, that $40K that Greenberg gave me.
Yeah, exactly. So there's clearly more to this. Morgan has just been staying quiet. He hasn't posted on social media or anything. He's usually pretty active on his official, I guess technically it was his campaign Facebook, but, he still uses it. And he has not said anything anywhere since Tuesday. He is, and I have no idea what he's getting paid for it, and I say this as someone who used to get paid to appear on this podcast. He did not appear on Wrestling Inc.'s NXT post-show podcast on Tuesday night with no public explanation, although read the tea leaves. And that's kind of where things sit with him right now, I guess.
I will have to wait and see what happens. Obviously, we can't speculate here, but it's how much did he push those QAnon adjacent conspiracies that were being spread by what was that group again? Operation Underground Railroad, that he got caught up in with because that, I'm assuming he's friends with NXT's QAnon referee.
Yes.
So how much did he push that stuff?
It's an interesting question. I have not seen this. At some point, he either was asked on one of the Wrestling Inc. podcasts or asked to be able to speak about it and stress that he is not a QAnon believer, follower, whatever. as someone who's religious, is it possibly just went into it well-meaning? Sure.
But
I mean, it happens.
all
I
right.
mean, again, the reason soft QAnon works is that who's gonna say no to want to help me with an anti-child sex trafficking charity fundraiser?
Right. And as long as they're not going to give you 40K for doing nothing, then you can go after them. Otherwise, who cares? I mean, to me that's another revealing thing here, that yet again we have an individual who is extremely loud about stopping child sex trafficking, which everyone who isn't a child sex trafficker can admit is abhorrent and needs to be stopped. But here's a guy who believes that it's all over the place and being carried out by his by I'm sure Operation Underground Railroad is big fans of the idea that the people they don't like are child sex traffickers, because this is a QAnon adjacent conspiracy that they're throwing out there with the Save Our Children campaign.
Well, and don't forget, too, with Operation Underground Railroad, it's not just capitalizing on the co-opting of Save the Children.
Oh, what do you mean?
Just freeze? Oh, sorry, I thought you froze for a second. Remember, as we talked about previously, when the Wayfair thing happened,
oh, right.
Ballard was like, children are sold this way.
Right, yeah, they share all that.
Tim Ballard, I should say, the founder of Operation Underground Railroad.
Right. So here you have this guy, Matt. We're talking about Matt Morgan here, who's sharing all of this stuff from this organization, supporting them, and on the side, he's when was this payment from again?
It was from the end of October 2019 through the first week of July 2020.
So, geez, so he really is in the. He's getting paid by Greenberg, an alleged sex trafficker, during the we're talking like QAnon's already taken off by that point. Like
Oh yeah.
If we're talking like 2018, 2019, I could forgive someone for not being so. I mean, I was obviously knew all about it then, but I could understand someone not on the aware of QAnon.
Yes,
but
and for
if you're not aware, what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say, for what it's worth, also he starts getting involved in this stuff, third week of August, based on the emails I had gotten.
Right.
As far as Operation Underground Railroad, so month and a half after his last payment from Greenberg.
Right. I mean, unbelievable. So we'll have to pay attention to this, see what goes down. I think this story is going to. I mean, I don't know how it could get any weirder, but it certainly can. And I think there's a lot here that's going to be uncovered. I don't it's all obviously no one's been charged. Well, Greenberg has. Greenberg was arrested and charged, and apparently, according to his lawyer, he's gonna sing like a little bird.
Yeah, should have mentioned that sooner. Actually, yes, by all indications, both from the New York Times reporting, I believe maybe some other reporting, and also Greenberg's lawyer, everyone that was tied up in this is fucked.
Yeah. Greenberg's going to do whatever he can to get as little punishment as possible for his role at the center of all this. Because he's, at the end of the day, he's small bore, No one, the big get for the feds is a sitting congressman.
Yes, who we should also note, too, two things. One, there was some anti-trafficking bill, was it last year or the year before, where he was, Gaetz, for some reason, the only no vote. And also, I need to, I retweeted her. Let me find it real quick. I forget who it was. Someone earlier today, I believe it was, dug up a Mother Jones article about Gaetz from about 2 years ago. Did you see this?
I did not, no.
Okay. All right, here it is. It was Jason Garcia, who was one of the reporters on the Sentinel story, who tweeted it. And he tweeted, "This passage from a fall 2019 Mother Jones story about Matt Gaetz sure reads differently today." There is one thing Gaetz would prefer to keep out of the media: his love life. 2 years ago, a former staffer sent him a blunt text message about a 21-year-old woman Gaetz was dating, who would later become a Democratic congressional intern, urging him to ask the woman to delete photos of him from her Instagram account. The staffer wrote, "Don't be surprised if many of the conservatives and competitors, like Chris Dosev of Florida, I guess Florida Central District 1, says Florida CD 1, may frown upon her sexually explicit images, her videos showcasing her multiple capabilities to smoke weed, and her flagrant application of language as antithetical to the values of Northwest Florida." Gaetz declined multiple requests from Mother Jones for an interview, but one day, out of the blue, he called to beg me not to identify the women he's dated. "I am pleading with you not to identify them," he said. "Identifying puts them at risk." Gaetz said he gets death threats from, quote, "the same demographic of people who shot up the Republican baseball game," end quote. He added, quote, "I'm not a monk, I'm just a congressman."
Jeez,
That's very
weird.
dark in the light of the last few weeks.
Right. And we should. I should add. I found this out about Matt Gaetz recently. I don't think a lot of people know this. Are you aware of who his fiance is?
Palmer Lucky's sister.
Yes, I could not believe it. What a weird. How weird. And for people who don't know, Palmer Luckey is the founder of the Oculus, the VR headset that Facebook later bought, making Palmer Luckey a billionaire. And you know what Palmer Luckey has done with those billions of dollars he now has?
Be the Trumpiest person possible.
Donating massive amounts of money to Donald Trump. Huge Trump supporter. I was so like, obviously, Matt Gaetz is not related to Palmer Luckey's sister as far as I know. But in terms of like them all being in this same little world of right-wing, nut jobs, how incestuous. I mean, really, it's so, what a weird thing to come across. I was very shocked. Like, weird that he would even put that on the line though. Like, at the very least, like, even if he doesn't care about this woman who he's supposedly going to be marrying, and is going out doing what he's doing, dude, you're going to get like a huge amount of money. You're going to become part of that whole family if you just don't allegedly have relations with underage women.
But isn't his dad already a billionaire? Gaetz.
Oh, is he? Right. What does Matt Gaetz' dad do again?
Oh, God, I don't remember.
I forgot. I honestly forgot all about that.
Matt Gaetz' dad's fortune, I guess, is the thing to Google. Okay, a Forbes story about his surprising family wealth. I should have probably just left the Mother Jones story open because the headline is about using his daddy's money.
Matt Gaetz reported assets of just $235,000 to $625,000 on his most recent disclosure form. I'm assuming there's something more there.
Yeah.
Oh, right, because we totally forgot this whole thing, where his dad, when this all broke, his dad claimed that he was being blackmailed for like $25 million, right?
Which does not mean that the investigation isn't real, because the blackmail attempt was about revealing that the investigation existed.
Right. So Matt Gaetz' dad claimed that someone came up to him and said, there's going to be a very unfortunate story coming out about your son, and if you pay me $25 million or something like that, no one has to know about it, which honestly, I don't see a way in which this story wasn't going to get out there. So that was just I don't know what is going on there. This story was getting out there whether Matt Gaetz' dad paid the money or not. You know what I mean?
Yeah, okay, so this is the most Florida way to make a fortune possible.
Is it real estate?
No.
Is it like surfboards and beach parties?
No, it's like
Disney World.
It's kind of in the same vein as the David Roth joke about how there are just a bunch of weird rich dudes who made money by like inventing a swimming pool cleaner and making enough money off of it before it was pulled from the market for killing people or whatever. So he co-founded a hospice provider, Vitas or Vitas Healthcare, in 1983 with an ordained minister and a registered nurse. He had been working as a hospital administrator. Built it up over the next 2 decades. In 2004, sold it, after building it up to 6,000 employees, to Roto-Rooter for $406 million.
Roto-Rooter? What is that again? Oh, the plumbing company, right?
The plumbing chain company, yeah.
Right. Weird.
Yeah, I would not have expected...
That's a lot of money.
No, but I also would not have expected that Roto-Rooter invested in the hospice business.
It makes sense, I guess. You know, people who are sick like that, you know, I guess...
They destroy toilets.
No, they probably need some sort of alternative way of using the restroom or help using the restroom.
No, but just a plumbing service.
I'm sure they make some sort of toilet items or something, you know. So, I don't know. I'm not going to speculate.
But still, it's a very weird little thing. Okay, so maybe he's not quite a billionaire. I don't know.
So you know, I mean, hundreds of millions of dollars is still a lot of money. But yeah, you just got to stick with her name's Ginger Lucky. She's 26, putting her at 12 years younger than Matt Gaetz, which people probably some people probably might not be fine with. I think, you know, when you're hit a certain age, the age gap can be much larger and it's fine. I don't think 26, 38. That's how old Matt Gaetz is now, right? 38?
He's about to turn 39.
Yeah, I don't think 26 and 39 is that big of a deal because
of
the ages that is.
Know.
But that's probably maybe why Matt Gaetz isn't that into her. It's not that big of an age gap. Anyway, David, we got to pay attention to the story. I'm sure there'll be much more coming out, and you'll be on top of it and letting us know what else happens with Matt Morgan, if there's anything else there. I mean, obviously, I think he's got to be questioned in some way as to how this all came about. I mean, we're definitely going to find more, at least about why he was paid $40,000 to do practically nothing. But you also had a piece that recently came out looking into my favorite topic of the past couple of weeks, cancel culture. Can't get enough of it. No one can stop talking about cancel culture because they love talking about Dr. Seuss and Pepe Le Pew and Mr. Potato Head and...
you mean the various examples that even if cancel culture was a real thing would still have nothing to do with cancel culture? Exactly.
But you wrote a piece about cancel culture and Hulk Hogan. And if you don't mind, David, we had a wonderful hour-long conversation about Matt Gaetz, Matt Morgan, and Joel Greenberg. And I think I've given the freebie listeners of the podcast just enough for this episode of the show. And if you would join me in the second half to talk about the...
you motherfucker.
What happened?
I'm kidding. But...
Okay. For a second, I thought you were actually upset with me.
No.
What I'll probably do is release this for freebies at a later date too. But I want to give.
We'll see. Yeah.
I want to give the patrons something. I want to give. I don't want to overload people with too much on one episode. And obviously, if you're watching the live stream, you can stick around. I will not cut off the live stream listeners. You can keep watching. You'll see no difference. So David, I'm gonna give you a quick couple minute break while I wrap up the first half of the show, and we'll jump right back in.
All right. Should I do any plugs, or should we just tell everyone to go to the show description?
No, we don't need to tell anyone about all the stuff you do. No one can. No, I'm joking. Of course, David. Okay. Where can people find you? Well, first of all, I think the most important thing in terms of this episode is plugging your wonderful newsletter. So you can shuttle people to read about your piece about finding that deleted Matt Gaetz tweet.
Yeah,
Matt Morgan tweet, I should say.
I've been neglecting it for a while. I think finally I have a better understanding of what I want to do with it. But yeah, my Substack is babyfacevheel.com. You can also find it linked on my Twitter, @DavidBix. Definitely should be some other stuff coming up there in the next week or so. And that has the Matt Morgan thing, plus the Drake Wirt Parlor article and the blog post I wrote about that time that WWE got in league with anti-vaxxers and then left their anti-vax press release on their website for years and years. That's there. All sorts of stuff over there. The Matt Riddle stuff we alluded to earlier is also on there, so check that out. If you want to see me doing more reporting like the types I do and not have to worry about being able to sell it to anyone, maybe pay for a subscription, but I'm not going to beg too much. And, of course, you can also check out the podcast myself and Chris Zellner do every week, the wrestling podcast we do, Between the Sheets, comes out every Monday, everywhere you want to listen to podcasts. And we also have our Patreon. So the regular podcast covers a given week in wrestling as it was covered at the time and analyzing all that. And then the Patreon shows that we do once a month are deep dives going across a longer period of time with a theme. The last one we did was part 1 of 2 that we're going to continue this month on the sale of WCW 20 years ago. And boy, did we find a lot of stuff that changed our minds on what went down there. Because I've started to find more trade magazine and other stuff that was kind of ignored by wrestling people at the time. So check that out as well.
All right, David Bixenspan.
If you just search for it on Patreon, you'll find it.
David Bixenspan, everyone. Follow him on Twitter at David Bix. And we'll see him again in just a couple of minutes on the second half of the show. Thank you for joining me, David. Talk to you in a second.
Sure.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. Let's do a quick... Oh, I got my bag of potato chips in the shot here. Let me move that out of the way. So, folks... First of all, we got a lot coming up in the second half of the show. So if you're watching on the live stream, don't go anywhere. You can stick around and stay tuned. You won't miss anything. But if you want to support the show and help it grow, help keep me doing what I do, help expand it, maybe even do more episodes, more streams, more bonus content, more YouTube exclusives, more gaming live streams like the one I did with Mike from the Humanist Report 2 weeks ago. Just more overall lovely content. You can support this show by going to patreon.com/MattBinder and subscribing. Now, the funny thing is, last week, I had mentioned how a bizarre thing happened where all of a sudden, usually I get some patrons during the show and then maybe a couple throughout the week, but then I mentioned how all of a sudden on a random Monday I got like a half a dozen patrons just join the show, and I was astounded. I was like, where did they come from? Why on a Monday? I didn't put out anything this Monday. I was wondering where they came from, and I told all you listeners that, and I guess a bunch of people thought I was rolling in the patrons now, and we literally got a total of 2 patrons this past week, which is definitely a low in terms of recent months at least. So I understand if you can't, no problem. But if you can afford to do so and like what I do and want to see more of it and want it to grow, then consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/MattBinder. And to thank those patrons who joined the show, I'm going to give them a shout out right now, as I usually do. 1 second here. Let me pull up the list of patrons. Should have had this ready to go, but I didn't because I'm wasn't thinking. You can also support the show by subscribing at the YouTube channel, youtube.com/MattBinder. That's free. And yeah. Let's see. Where's my all right. Well, I forgot. I don't remember if I shouted these people out on the episode last week, so I want to make sure I get them in. So I'm going to shout out some people who joined during the show last week and between that show and this show. Lawrence T. Thank you for becoming a patron. Counting Amberjacks. Thank you for becoming a patron. And Abby. Thank you so much, all of you, for becoming patrons. Really appreciate the support. And, I'll thank you too on the show if you become a patron. You go to youtube.com/MattBinder, subscribe to the YouTube channel. You can doomthepod.com for the audio version of the show. Also links to iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, you get the drill. Also, we're like 10 reviews away from 300 reviews on iTunes. So if you could do that, that would be great. That'd be fantastic. iTunes reviews really do help. They help me go up the rankings on iTunes. So when people are looking for podcasts, they discover this show. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, at Matt Binder. Search Matt Binder on all streaming platforms, social media platforms. You'll find me. What else? I think that's it. If there's someone you want to see on this show, let me know. If you want to see me on a show, let me know, and let the show that you want me on know. You know. And otherwise, see you shortly in just a minute or two with David Bixenspan again as we talk more. And I got some videos to play for you guys. But if you're leaving us right now, until next time, see you all next time on Doomed. Welcome back, everybody, to the show. I see some people commenting on my new background here that I'm trying out. Everyone's saying, what's going on? Where's the all-black background? Why aren't you floating in space? Why aren't you in the void? Where's the void, Matt? Asked Zoe. Oh my God, I forgot to plug the super chats. If you'd like to ask a super chat question, I already got some super chats I'll be reading 100% tonight on the show. But if you drop a super chat, I'll read your comments, your questions. You do that at youtube.com/MattBinder. And I will get to your super chat questions, comments 100%. If you ask one while Bix is on the show, David Bixenspan's on the show, I'll make sure to ask your question while he's on if you want his question. Yeah, I'm trying out this more gradient style background. I think it looks better, honestly. I think it looks like more video friendly than just a random. I think it actually makes me look better too, actually. Yeah. Oh, I forgot to turn on the side thing too. 1 second. Got to mask those edges. Otherwise it looks weird. Oh my God, the edges won't mask. What's going on here? Let me fix that video for a second. There we go. The masked edges. Oh, we got David Bixenspan back. He was taking a break like I told him to. And we're going to talk, right, and bring him back on the feed here. Hey, David. How are you doing?
I'm okay.
What's wrong?
Nothing. It's just late.
All right. Yeah, I just wanted to talk about your piece. Not long.
I'm fine with whatever. I just probably sounded a little different because it whatever. Anyway.
Do you need me to ship you an express Monster Energy or something like from the local?
No. I did get some because I was waiting for my Brita to refill, so I did get my electrolyte powder that I put in there, which I got over the weekend after I got the vaccine because I had been warned that if you get the flu shot type symptoms that you will get dehydrated, and I was, and it helped.
What vaccine did you get?
Moderna. This was the second dose, so 6 days ago.
Interesting. I have not gotten it yet. I just haven't looked. Well, I mean, when I did look, it wasn't available, and I haven't been on top of it. I have to get on top of it.
Set that TurboVax notification on Twitter.
Oh, right, they got that. Right. I forgot about that.
There's a bot for everything.
Yeah. So, David, let's talk about your recent piece. WrestleMania week.
Yes.
Came and went. I told you about my WrestleMania experience, how I flew down to Florida, attended both nights of WrestleMania, met all my favorite superstars on the big event back.
Got COVID,
and it was just a wonderful time in Florida watching 2 nights of WrestleMania. Truly historic. No, that's not actually what happened. I did let you know what happened, and that is that I put my kids to bed each night of WrestleMania with the intent of them going to bed and then me leaving the room and watching WrestleMania. And both nights, I conked out. I fell asleep. Didn't wake up.
Oh, you tell me it happened Sunday too.
Oh, it happened
Wow.
both nights. I missed WrestleMania completely. I mean, I've watched the highlights. I know what happened. I know who won. I know. I've heard it was a great event. From what
Night one in particular was quite good.
I've seen also that, man, it was so nice to see the fans back. It really is not. Wrestling is really not a thing without the. That's why I really have not been able. Like, I've been paying attention to what's been going on, the storylines, watched clips and summaries, and. But
I mean, there are fans. There are fans on the AEW shows though, because they've had an outdoor venue the whole time and started having fans after several months.
Right, and I've been watching some AEW actually, and listen, just having the fans there makes a whole difference. I mean, I'm sure people feel that way about all sports, but pro wrestling without an audience is just like it's nothing, man. It's like it's been so bad because there isn't an audience to guide the storylines. Like usually if a storyline or a character or an angle is just bombing, the fans will shit all over it, and they'll be forced in some way to adjust.
Well, in theory.
It happens a lot, though.
Yes.
Obviously, they don't give the fans exactly what they want, but a lot of times they're forced to adjust in some way, and we just haven't seen that. Just bad storyline, bad angle, bad character, just nonstop, week after week, with no influence from the viewer saying, hey, this sucks.
Right. Now, by the way, I'm guessing you watched the key matches. You watched Sasha Banks, Bianca Belair. You watched the Bad Bunny match. You watched the big title matches from Sunday. Did you watch the first half hour of the first night, or WrestleMania as it's been dubbed?
No. Oh,
Okay.
What do you mean when they it was
the rain delay?
Oh, I saw that. Yeah, the rain delay. Yeah, I saw the rain delay.
The rain delay was awesome because all of a sudden you had all these people who WWE forces into badly scripted talking, improvising.
Right.
Everyone, I saw some people say they didn't think like Seth Rollins and a couple other people benefited, but I thought everyone sounded significantly better.
Right. Yeah. But the reason I bring up WrestleMania is obviously not just talk WrestleMania with you, but for this show, you had a piece about basically how cancel culture did or didn't come for Hulk Hogan.
Yes.
Why don't you give us the rundown here?
So I didn't try to belabor the cancel culture part too much. I mean, it's there, but I didn't want to hammer that part home. It's there a little bit at the beginning and more so at the end. What I really wanted to do was, because this, Hogan had already been back in the WWE mix, but here he's in his hometown, co-hosting WrestleMania with fellow Tampa native Titus O'Neil, who is, one, a black man, two, the person in pro wrestling, really the most prominent person in general, to call out like the specifics of why Hogan's apologies for his transgressions with racist ranting and the N-word appeared to be bullshit. So with that in mind, and then also WWE Network moving to Peacock in the United States, NBC's premium streaming service, something that got noticed very quickly by a bunch of people is that Peacock was editing out things that, in most cases, rightfully, they deemed racist bullshit. It's pretty much all been blackface or the N-word in some form so far. They're not going to find much of the latter other than the infamous Vince McMahon calling John Cena his N-word with an A. But, blackface, there's been more of it. They're not going to find a ton. And I think what made it really clear that they're mainly concentrating on that stuff is they even cut out, as they're adding the archival content little by little, they say they'll be done by August, they edited out a segment from late 97 for when Goldust became a bad guy again and became the artist formerly known as Goldust. Actually, I don't think he was called the artist formerly known as Goldust yet, but he was becoming this weirder, darker character. And instead of having the mostly gold paint with black accents, he had black paint with very little bit of gold accents. And they cut the segment where he's painted like that out. Now, they did also cut out a segment where he actually wears blackface a few months later. But that makes it fairly clear what type of stuff they're looking for. You know, they don't seem to have any issue with right now how WWE took Apollo Crews, who's I believe he's American-born from Nigerian descent, and all of a sudden started having him talk in a Nigerian accent, become a bad guy, talk about embracing his background, and carrying a fucking spear to the ring.
Jesus.
Yeah,
Right.
like the whole thing's kind of bad, but like I'm surprised the spear thing, because it's just so on the nose racist, hasn't gotten more play. I mean, I think it kind of shows how disconnected people are from WWE right now and disengaged. Because, I mean, that's on SmackDown. SmackDown's their most watched show. It's the one on network television, and nothing. So you've got that, and you got some little bits of stereotyping still and other stuff. Peacock doesn't seem to be concerned with that. They seem to be only concerned with the absolute worst, most overt stuff that they don't want to be near. That said, though, still weird to take the Hogan stuff into account. So what I really wanted to do was lay out, here's what happened, here's what he said that got him in trouble, here's how he claimed he was apologizing, here's how he claimed to be apologizing later privately to various wrestlers, etc. And here's how his apology was such bullshit, yet here's all the shit he did, and he doesn't seem to have really faced any consequences.
Right.
And we'll get to the specifics, obviously, but I'll let you lead as far as that.
Right. So, you know, as we all know, I guess the little background here, people who aren't familiar, Hulk Hogan basically had a sex tape that came out that Gawker, the former online blog, Gawker got their hands on, and they wrote about it. And Hogan basically, with the help of Peter Thiel, bankrupted Gawker, took them out of business with a lawsuit over this sex tape. And later on, it comes out that there was more to that tape.
Well, no. There were 3 sex tapes.
Oh, it was a separate one, but with the same woman, right?
Yes, with Bubba the Love Sponge Clem's then wife, Heather. Yes.
Bubba the Love Sponge, unbelievable. Okay, and
yes, also the man who may or may not have also shot a sex tape with his wife and General Petraeus. But that's another story.
Wait, what? Wait, say this again?
You don't remember this part? Okay. Well, it didn't get that much play. I was the one who found out about it. So when they're talking with the blackmailers, Hogan and one of his lawyers, about acquiring the sex tapes, in the conversation, Keith Davidson, a.k.a. Stormy Daniels' old lawyer, who's brokering the deal, drops that he heard that Bubba also has a General Petraeus sex tape after meeting him at a swingers club.
Didn't know about this one.
And there is a little bit of credibility to it because, I'm blanking on her name now. What's her face that was at the center of the Petraeus scandal? Jill something, I think?
Okay, I know who you're talking about, but I can't remember her whole name either.
I think it had come out that she was the one who intervened when Bubba was threatening to burn the Koran on the air to be like, no, the CIA says you should not do this because it will lead to legitimate threats against national security. And probably also you. She was the one who intervened on that, so there is a separate Bubba Petraeus connection. Anyway.
I think that's for another day.
But anyway, yes. So there were 3 separate sex tapes.
So in one of these tapes that comes out, that released, who released it first after that? TMZ, right?
Okay, well, let me give you the brief chronology.
Yeah, really brief.
Yes. Hogan, as his marriage is falling apart, swings with Bubba's wife a few times. I believe it came out that it was 4 times, 3 of which were secretly videotaped, without Hogan's knowledge. Heather would testify in the Gawker trial that she didn't know there was a camera. but she would later tell the Tampa police that she did. So
If I
that's
recall,
all.
wasn't she like playing up for the camera too? I don't really, let's just keep going.
I mean, there are people who think Hogan was too, but whatever. So this is mid 2007. Nothing happens for years and years. Mid 2012, does this site even exist anymore? Nick Ritchie's
I
TheDirty.com.
think it does. It sounds familiar. I mean, I knew it then, but it sounds familiar as if I've heard it recently.
Post screenshots from a Hogan sex tape, which I think the existence of which had already been reported by TMZ. And the screenshots, you can't really see much, but Bubba fans quickly deduced that it was Bubba's bedroom based on photos he had shared, and probably Heather. But nothing really comes out of this after several months, although Nick Ritchie makes a comment about something like, remember Dog the Bounty Hunter? Remember those things you said, Terry? At Hogan?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. So there was an inference that he had said something racist during a sex tape going back to mid-2012, but everyone forgot about it because nothing came of it. Gotta remember, everyone kind of assumed there was only one sex tape. Lots of people still think that the N-word stuff was on the Gawker sex tape.
Hey, that's what I thought.
Which is also, but if you really think about it, okay, whatever anyone thinks of AJ Delario, do you really think he was going to prioritize Hogan's shitty sex tape over Hogan ranting and screaming about effing N-words?
Oh, no, I don't think he had the whole tape. That was my assumption, that he got...
Oh, no, he had the whole thing.
That this was like something that was part of that tape, but that wasn't given to Gawker for some reason or another.
Yes, so there's the one Gawker got, which, I mean, Hogan says some things he might not want out there on, but isn't that bad. Then we'll get to in a second, how that came out, the N-word one, and there was also one where they had sex and nothing else really happened. So, Hogan sues Gawker, goes court shopping a little bit because the federal court and all that are rejecting the lawsuit, blah, 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 prior restraint on free speech, eventually sues locally in Pinellas County, Florida. As this is all going on, and as I believe this was either right as the original Gawker trial date was about to happen or right after it got delayed in July 2015, and after Gawker had lost an important motion, within a day or two, the Inquirer releases quotes from this tape where he's making these comments. I'm racist to a point, effing N-words, I guess we're all a little bit racist, various other stuff. And he's fired from his role as a WWE, public relations and goodwill ambassador, and is erased from their website, comes back 3 years later with WWE claiming he had been suspended from the WWE Hall of Fame because for 3 years, people were like, well, wait, you took him off the website. Is he out of the Hall of Fame? Because now he's not on the Hall of Fame listing on the website. They never answer anyone. Then finally, 3 years later, they were like, oh, yeah, he was suspended the whole time. So anyway, he's been back in the mix on and off for the last almost 3 years now. But back in 2016, this happens. A lot of people assumed it was someone at Gawker because they did have access to some of this stuff in sealed court documents, because once they heard about the N-word stuff, their argument was, well, wait a second. He doesn't really have any financial damages he can show. So it looks like he was actually mainly concerned about the N-word stuff, which, as kind of skeezy as it sounds, isn't a huge leap. Here's why. His initial interviews after the sex tape stuff happens, are mostly very flippant about it. It's strange, and his tone does kind of change once he finds out about the blackmail attempt and the N-word stuff. Here's the thing, though. If any of the Gawker lawyers had done that, because it was sealed and all that, they would have effectively lost the equivalent of a default judgment and lost the case. Gawker had very good lawyers from a very prominent, like, First Amendment law firm, the lawyers would not have done that. I heard at one point that Hogan's people decided that John Cook was who leaked it, even though he wouldn't have had access to it, which is ridiculous. It's clearly not true. John, former Gawker editor, currently a Business Insider.
Right.
And again, I'm stressing, this is not true. There's no way it could have been true. It's very weird that anyone might have even thought he was responsible. What I'm just saying is, like, this is kind of how things were going, and there were more lawsuits where eventually the finger was pointed at probably being some people he used to work with in Florida radio that he ended up having a falling out with. But anyway, so this comes out eventually several months later, the week of the Gawker trial, actually. A bunch of the documents are unsealed via an appellate ruling. Curiously, the appellate, one thing is not included in the stuff released by the appellate court, which is a copy of the sting operation where they play the N-word recording. And I got a hold of that. It was free and clear to run with. And that's how the audio's out there. Anyway, where was I going with all this? So we should probably get into the specifics of what he said and how he tried to apologize, right?
Right. That's where I think that's a major part of it, right? I mean, the idea that, long story short, I'm sure you'll go a little bit more into it, but long story short, he goes out and basically the apology is that he got caught, that was on video.
Well, not the first apology, no. So the first apology is about a month later. Well, again, theoretical apology. He goes on Good Morning America. Amy Robach interviews him in a pre-taped interview. I'm sorry, I'm not racist. I was at the worst point in my life. Which, that part's probably true. And
it sounds like you say he was apologizing for not being racist. I apologize, I'm not racist. I really should be.
But anyway, he goes on in Good Morning America, and why don't I just read what he said from the beginning of my article? I'm not a racist. I never should have said what I said. It was wrong. I'm embarrassed by it, but a lot of people need to realize you inherit things from your environment. Where I grew up was South Tampa, Port Tampa. It was a really rough neighborhood, very low income, and all my friends would greet each other saying that word. The word was just thrown around like it was nothing.
I don't know.
And then Amy Robach, who, as we'll get into in a moment, should know better, asked if he had, quote unquote, inherited a racial bias. He said yes, and he said, I would say that is very fair. The environment I grew up in, all my white friends, all my black friends, to hear the word on a daily basis when they greet me in the morning, that's what they say, good morning, so-and-so. I think that was part of the culture and the environment I grew up in, then beg fans to forgive him, saying he's a nice guy. Like I said in the article, in 2021 terms, you could say he was trying to make sure he's not being canceled or undo being canceled or whatever. Okay. Even just on the surface, just hearing that. Granted, we talked about the effing N-words part a little bit in passing, but you grew up in 60s Florida, you fucking liar.
Right.
That is clearly not true. They showed the Inquirer headlines and stuff in the segment. They don't ever actually say what he said, but I would think Amy Robach and the producers on this segment knew what he said. And the thing is, on top of everything, on top of how just not believable that in the first place, it also has nothing to do with what he said. Which was, I don't have double standards. I'm racist to a point, fucking N-words. But when it comes to nice people and shit and whatever, and then he trails off, and there's a Freedom of Information Act redaction on the recording because they didn't have waivers for everyone, and then also the Inquirer thing quoted him as saying separately, I guess we're all little racist effing N-words. Something that became more clear on the audio, because if you look at those comments, reading them on the page without his inflection, it reads weird, right? I'm racist to a point, effing N-words, right?
All right.
It doesn't make sense that someone would say the words effing N-words there, even if talking about what a racist they are. On the audio, he's basically sounding like he's putting air quotes around it. I'm racist to a point, blah, 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 effing N-words. In other words, he's saying he says that shit all the time. That's how it sounds.
Also, wouldn't it's not like Hulk Hogan was a new, a new upstart wrestler. Like, if this was true that this was coming from his upbringing, I mean, there'd be stories about Hulk Hogan throwing the N word around throughout the '80s when he was a big star. No, you don't think there'd be like some major black wrestler during that age would have come out? Like Coco Beware, Rocky Johnson, what's his face? What was Rocky Johnson's partner? His name again?
Tony Atlas.
Tony Atlas.
Well, it's Tony Atlas who feuded with Hogan when Hogan was a bad guy in a feud where Hogan cut very racist interviews.
Yeah, I mean,
so the one that was famous that everyone always pointed to had him calling Tony Atlas a brown clown. That's bad. I saw one recently that I'd never seen before.
Brown. I'm thinking of new guys who would have come across Hogan, right?
Right, but it was even worse. This one that I saw recently that I had seen before, where he says, "I'm going to make him scream Uncle Tom."
Wait, what? This was on WWE?
Yes, in 1981.
Wow.
So 40 years ago.
Not shocking, not surprising, but I'm just surprised I didn't hear about this one previously.
I was too. Because I don't remember ever hearing about that one. Because people always pointed to the other one. I mean, especially once the Inquirer thing happened. But even before, holy shit, that's a heavy racist interview. And it turns out there were others that were even worse. And so anyway, I mean, there's more. The whole thing that set this off was that his daughter, Brooke, was dating a black guy.
Right. Well, people also forget that, Hogan was friend. I mean, part of Hogan's story may make sense because, he was, in WCW during the 90s with Booker T. And we all know that promo where Booker T
Hulk Hogan for you.
Accidentally called him the N-word. If anyone hasn't seen that video, that is an amazing video.
Wait, the best part of it is Booker putting his head in his hands immediately while Sherry Martel starts laughing uncontrollably in the background.
She's it's also she's consoling him too, tapping him on the back, don't worry about it, don't worry about it.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's gonna play into things in a second. So as discussed in the article, okay, but I'll get there in a second. There's more. He says his issue was that she was dating a black guy that set this off. She was dating the rapper Stax. He has a different name now. I forget what it is. Real name, though, Unique Barker. The son of Cecil Barker, former aerospace magnate, who was the one who was funding Brooke's singing career and also spending a bunch of money on various Hogan-related business ventures. Overall, he said he lost, at least $10 million. In the meantime, Hogan had also convinced him they were best friends. Yet, here's what he says. I mean, I'd rather if she was going to fuck some N-word. Keep in mind, he's also talking about his daughter this way. I'd rather have her marry an 8-foot-tall N-word worth $100 million, like a basketball player. On the audio, it becomes apparent. Some of this is mumbled, so you have to kind of borrow from the Inquirer run. But he does say clearly, if we're gonna F with N-words, something, I don't have the exact quote in front of me, but something like, it should at least be a rich one.
But you just told me this guy, I mean, this is obviously unimportant, but just
a billionaire.
Yeah, just for the sake of just what he's saying doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
You just said this guy is rich.
My interpretation of that, which is the only thing I could think of, and I really thought about this a lot, is that he saw it as somehow lesser or was ignoring it because it wasn't something he considered a black way to make money. That specifically he names a basketball player as the idea. That's the only thing I can think of.
I'm trying to figure out something that can make sense, and I'm going to land on this. We all know Hulk Hogan is good friends with Dennis Rodman. Dennis Rodman was in the NWO during...
you're saying Dennis Rodman is just the first black person he liked that he could think of?
No, not even. I'm going to say that Dennis Rodman had a crush on Brooke Hogan, and Brooke turned down his advances, and that strained Hogan's relationship with his good buddy Dennis Rodman.
No.
So Hogan took it out on Brooke.
No.
I'm just being stupid
But
here.
anyway, the point is though, like, so on top of everything else, there's an aspect that never really got publicity, which is that because he also cracks wise about how, like, there's a condo he's losing in the divorce, or that he could lose, and he doesn't want to potentially lose it. And he's like, oh, I can just sell it to Cecil, and he can give it back to me after. So the context of all this is basically him laughing at how he's conned this billionaire into thinking they were friends and calling him a dumb N-word. Like, it's significantly worse than anyone realized it was for the most part. So anyway. Oh, by the way, one of the local news stations in Tampa talked to a bunch of his old neighborhoods and people he went to school with as a kid who were like, no, that's bullshit. About what he said about growing up and people throwing around, what's up my N? In the 1960s Tampa. Okay. Here's the thing that throws a monkey wrench in where the Booker T thing actually kind of comes into play. That something was coming broke the night before the Inquirer story. About 13 hours earlier. Sports and hip-hop forum thecollie.com, someone who apparently had a decent track record of posting scoops there, started a thread saying the Inquirer had some kind of recording of Hogan using the N-word a bunch, and that WWE was about to announce his departure, firing, whatever, in the morning when this came out. Within a few hours of that, WWE also starts expurgating Hogan from the website.
Right.
So people realize there's something to this. And even before that, within a few minutes, someone in the thread replies like, well, wait, he did this radio interview in 2012 where he quotes people using the N-word. He says, like, Booker T would use it towards him, what's up my N and stuff. Maybe this is it. And a bunch of media outlets, large and small, started to pick it up as if it was that. Even though it became a massive national news story after the Inquirer story broke, a lot of them either didn't correct it or even later would rely on the earlier mistaken reports. So there are a ton of people who genuinely believe that Hogan got in trouble because he quoted people using the N-word towards him. Which, now we know for sure is not a thing you should do if you're a white person. But it's not the same thing. It's not.
This reminds me of, I feel like, media always gets these wrestling related, like these wrestling crossing over into the mainstream stories wrong. And I feel like one of the most glaring ones I can remember is, do you remember when the whole Benoit murder-suicide went down? And
yes.
All the media,
Grace thing.
What?
Are you thinking of the Nancy Grace thing? Or?
No. And all the media was reporting that Chris Benoit could have been disappointed and frustrated with his career because he was demoted to ECW.
Okay, so that was Nancy Grace, and she got the terminology wrong. Here's the thing, though. That was true.
No, ECW was not a demotion.
No. It wasn't. He was sent to ECW because of how respected he was to be a player coach for the younger talent they were putting on that show. However, because Benoit was an absolute paranoid, mentally ill wreck at this point, he thought it was a demotion, and he was being pushed out.
Did he actually say that to people?
Yes.
I did not know that. I always thought it was the media, like you said, Nancy Grace, misunderstanding wrestling. But it turns out that it was Chris Benoit himself who was misunderstanding wrestling.
And by the way, after that first night, as terrible as Nancy Grace is, she actually did a fantastic job with the Benoit coverage. Like, improbably so. She did a very good job, like, after that first night where she got all the criticism for messing stuff up, researching, making sure she understood the story, etc. Rare good moment for her. But anyway, how did we get on to Benoit? Oh, getting stories wrong. So, like, but yeah, you can still find, like, a CBS News story where they're talking about how it's because of a resurfaced 2012 radio interview. You can You can find that. You can find a variety story about the Good Morning America appearance a month later that says he's apologizing for the radio appearance, which was on the DJ Woo Kid show. So a lot of people, I can't blame them if they think that's what happened. Do I think Hogan was acutely aware of this and that's why he framed the quote-unquote apology that way? I don't say it in the story. I thought about it more after I was done. Probably. Wouldn't shock me either way. But because he kind of got let slide on the bullshit apology by a major news organization, because the bullshit apology fit with the mistaken impression of what he got in trouble for, even if it didn't fit what he actually got in trouble for, that gave him a lot of cover.
Right.
Now, he's never acknowledged some of the other stuff he said. The Inquirer story led to further scrutiny, which led to Bay News 9 in Tampa going through more of the transcripts of his jailhouse visitor room conversations with his son, stemming from his son's car wreck that turned his son's best friend into, I should phrase it differently, put him in a vegetative state, effectively, where Hogan also bought him the beer that he drank while underage. He makes comments about how he hopes they're not reincarnated as, quote, Blizak Gazais. You know what I'm saying? Saying black guys and Carney, which...
What
Carney
a weird...
I know, yes.
Weird thing.
Well, it's not the only time they use it. Like, when Nick is talking about, like, the teachers for the people who are there that are teenagers or whatever... Like, he refers to them as, like, Blizz ladies and stuff. The black women who are his teachers. So it's like, they're already using Carney language. And then Hogan throws out there, like, yeah, I don't want to be reincarnated as a couple of black guys. Which also, by the way, Hogan's first book. I mean, they're both ghost-ridden and they're both kind of bullshit, but still, this section, he seems genuine. There's a section in the first book where he explains how to speak Carney. And it's just all the, the Blizak Gazai stuff. Hogan genuinely seems to think it's like a hard-to-decipher thing. Like, that's a really good way to hide what you are saying from someone who doesn't speak Carney. When it's actually, like, a much easier to decipher and dumber version of Pig Latin.
Unbelievable.
So, he never said anything about this. He never said anything apologizing to Cecil Barker or his son. It never has acknowledged those parts.
So he did apologize later on for it being caught on video, I remember, and he went around doing some like
privately.
He did some, but didn't he do some like? Didn't he say he was gonna do some like, child education where, like education for children, where he went around telling them to be careful, make sure you're not being recorded, brother.
I don't know about that part. I mean, the thing that made it very clear that he was about to come back was that the Boys and Girls Club in Tampa honored him for their alumnus award, which, I mean, for a charity that largely helps out, I mean, I don't know if largely is the right word, but helps out a lot of black boys and girls, kind of a curious move, but it seemed like it was signaling that Hogan would be coming back soon. But no, it was after they announced he was back. He's in the locker room at a pay-per-view. And his apology was very heavy on, like, there are cameras everywhere now, brother.
Right.
And even, like, when Triple H was introducing him to the locker room, he was heavy on that part. Like, Triple H was, not just Hogan. So, it was bad enough that multiple black wrestlers all came out and confirmed it publicly. The three members of New Day, Big E, Kofi Kingston, and Xavier Woods, a.k.a. What's the name he uses on the video stream?
Austin Creed.
Stuff. Yeah, Austin Creed for, Twitch fans and the like. They put out a statement, and Titus O'Neil also put out a statement. Both talking about just how it was bullshit, somewhat diplomatically, but a week after that, Titus was on Busted Open Radio, the Sirius XM wrestling show, and that's when he just went off into the specifics of, like, the 2015 apology, too, and was like, You went to this high school. That was not a heavily black high school when you were growing up. Also, no black man in the 1960s would let you call him that. Like all this stuff, like all the obvious stuff, but that no one had really called him out on otherwise. Biggie did tweet 2 years ago, I think it was the day of WrestleMania, that Hogan went up to him before the show to try to apologize, and that he appreciated him coming to him to try to apologize, but he didn't necessarily accept the apology. And that's about it. I mean, he did one interview on Booker T's radio show, which was kind of along the same lines of like let me see if I can find the actual quote on this one. Or
when he was on Booker T's show, did he go, let me just ask you one thing, brother. Why was it okay for you to call me one, but I can't call you?
No, he didn't, thankfully. He referenced the promo. I forget. But this is the only time he said anything really at all since 2018. But he was saying, people can say a word or make a mistake. It doesn't mean that's who they are. Like, again, he repeatedly said, I'm a racist. He didn't just use the N-word. And even if he hadn't used the N-word, what he said would have still been super racist.
Right. But don't you know, weren't you aware, David, that in Carney talk, if you pronounce you're not a racist before you say racist things, it means you're not a racist? Isn't that how the Carney talk
But he
goes?
said he's a racist. But anyway, and then, also, after the return to WWE, a few weeks later, he goes on Bill Apter's podcast, Bill Apter, the longtime pro wrestling writer and photographer and stuff, and says that people who aren't, like, accepting his apology don't understand the brotherhood of wrestling and how you stick up for each other.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, which I think that was after Titus Unbusted Open, so I don't think it was the catalyst for that. But, yeah. Like, so he doesn't get it.
Right.
And if he does, he doesn't care.
So he's basically been, at this point, he's basically, his image, I think, in the mainstream is ruined for good. But in the wrestling world, though, as long as Vince McMahon is in charge of things and they're running the WWE, they just can't get over the fact that Hulk Hogan is not viewed the same way as he used to be, and they just feel like they need to help him rehabilitate him. I don't know what the deal is there.
Well, it's also super weird because he's not that popular anyway. Like, and he wasn't even that popular before this happened.
He was very popular. From when he started, like the 80s, even into like the early 2000s, like that last WWE run where he was, in NW. Well, that wasn't the last one. The last one was with the when he had the Legend Killer feud with Orton, right?
That was the last time he wrestled in WWE.
Yeah. I mean, even then though, he was popular, man. What killed him was the reality. I guess the Orton thing was after the reality show, but he still had
it in the middle of the reality show.
Yeah, but like at the end of the reality show, he was done, and then the accident that his son caused, and the things he's like, I feel like his son
the jailhouse stuff, where also like he said that the friend that was maimed was a very negative person and brought a lot of heavy shit on himself. He and Nick were talking about.
Like, listen, like if Nick Hogan did that stuff, obviously it reflects a bit on the parents, which is who Hogan is. But when the reports about his own words criticizing the kid who now has a hole in his head and his life is forever changed because of his like just unbelievable. Like, I feel like that was the beginning of the end for Hogan. If the reality show didn't end his popularity and his allure with the broader public, I mean, that was the beginning of the end. And then the video was it. That was it.
Yeah. I mean, he's just very Teflon, though, like, to a degree. Like, you would think he'd just be completely gone after all that stuff.
I don't know. I feel like Teflon means, like, he came back and everyone still loves him, but that's just not the case. Like, the dude got booed at WrestleMania just a few days ago. If you were to tell me that Hulk Hogan would get booed at a WWE WrestleMania, if you removed all those news stories about him, if you just said, like, told me in, like, the late 90s, early 2000s, Hulk Hogan's going to get booed at WrestleMania in 20 years. I'd be like, what the fuck happens in between that time for that to happen? It seems impossible.
Yeah. But I mean, there's other stuff too. Like when, going into the first Monday Nitro, when he was opening up his Pastamania Mall restaurant at the Mall of America, like there was a woman who worked, I believe, in public relations at the Mall of America who accused him of raping her during all that. And I guess her lawyer contacted him before she went to police,
right,
or sued or anything. And he preemptively sued her and her lawyer for embezzlement. And then he settled with an NDA, and he says he can't say anything. Which I don't think, look, I'm not saying he's guilty. That's not how that usually works, I don't think. So, there's a lot of stuff he sidestepped, is my point, regardless of whether or not that did or didn't happen.
Right.
He sidestepped a lot over the years. And, he called a cameraman on Nitro once a jiggly, jiggly Jew.
Wait, what?
There was a skid in the back of a limo, and he addresses the cameraman and calls him a jiggly, jiggly Jew.
What does that even mean? Why the jiggly, jiggly? I don't even get that.
I don't know. I believe Chuck Zito was with him, and Chuck Zito's a Hell's Angel, so do the math. But, yeah, it was very weird. So, there's all sorts of stuff.
This was on air?
Yes. And a pre-taped segment.
And they aired it?
It's WCW.
Even though it was pre-taped? All right. So, David, what do you think? Do you think cancel culture will ever come for Hulk Hogan, or is he so far gone? Is it so far gone from when this all leaked, and WWE's worked so hard to rehabilitate him, and being that he's back on WrestleMania, and you got Titus O'Neil co-hosting the show with him, which I'm sure Titus O'Neil loved. Do you think that's it? Hogan's back in the good graces of pro wrestling?
To whatever extent cancel culture may exist, unless something new happens, I don't think so.
That's what I should add. That's what I mean when I mean the whole idea that Hulk Hogan has gotten away with all this is proof to me that cancel culture, again, is bullshit. Just another, but that's why I worded it in that way, to be funny. But go ahead.
I mean, look, there are things that have happened that people have gone overboard about, whatever, but cancel culture has lost all meaning with the Dr. Seuss thing and the potato head thing and all that. It just has. Or the Muppet Show thing, or the disclaimers on the other stuff, all that. It's...
Let me tell you something, brother. You want to cancel me for saying the N-word, that's one thing. But you want to stop publishing a few of Dr. Seuss's books? Well, let me tell you something, Jack. Not on my watch.
Excuse me. I forgot the best one, actually. So, which was Dumbo on Disney Plus. They canceled Dumbo.
They didn't even cancel Dumbo. They just moved him. They moved
They moved the movie out into a different parental controls tier.
Yes, I mean, come on. That's such. Who cares about that?
The Muppet Show at least had a disclaimer on a few episodes. Dumbo, I think they did add a disclaimer too, but they, the thing that people were really getting upset over was what's that?
Who the hell is even using parental controls on Disney Plus? I could see if it was Netflix or something where there's a lot of rated R or adult movies or scary movies, and they don't want kids to see this stuff. But when I say adult movies, I mean
do they
violent.
Not have anything that's PG-13?
Disney Plus. I mean, I'm trying to think. I mean, I guess now that they own the Fox library. The 20th Century Fox library. I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm sure there's 20th stuff. I'm sure there's Miramax was them, wasn't it?
Yeah, they bought Miramax. That's true.
Right, I'm sure there's stuff.
Yeah, but I mean, come on.
I don't have Disney Plus.
Come
on.
Right. Parental controls on Disney Plus. Who cares, man? People are gonna really cry about that stuff. Such small bore, things to whine about. And first of all, Dumbo's not even that great of a movie.
Right, and then also acting like the racism in the scene with the crows isn't obvious. A, there are a bunch of jive-talking animated crows. B, one of them is named Jim.
Jim, right. Jim Crow, right.
Yeah, come on. Now, do I think there's a conversation to be had about the disclaimer versus editing approach? Yes.
Oh yeah, of course. I personally think that these things shouldn't be edited. I think they should be. I mean, they should be uploaded or put on these streaming services for people to see. There
And
should
just contextualized, yeah.
there should be a disclaimer before them. So, because otherwise, I feel like it's just these companies are just trying to whitewash their own histories for their own benefits, really. So
Right.
I feel like it should be up there. People should be able to watch. People should be able to understand this stuff. I mean, a lot of it makes sense in the context of when it was made and what they were trying to do, and you should understand this stuff to get a healthy view of how things were being done during that time. I mean, if they don't want to air it, they don't want to air it. But the idea that you would edit it is much different to me.
Right.
Either put it up or don't. But if you're gonna edit it, that's just that's ridiculous.
Well, especially the way WWE and Peacock have been doing it, where they barely acknowledge that it's happening.
Right. They should. I mean, they should just put a disclaimer before this stuff. I mean, the idea that you would edit it out, not even mention it, but still have the full event minus the parts you wanted edited out, is just not. Yeah.
Yeah, and now WWE, and I should know too, it didn't happen at the same time, but I don't know if it's a contractual thing or what. They have made the same edits on the international version of WWE Network since the Peacock move happened. It took time, but they happened. They weren't right away. They weren't right in sync with each other.
Like for example, like the Dr. Seuss, the books that aren't being published by Dr. Seuss anymore. One of them is because of how Dr. Seuss portrayed a Chinese man with
which was actually something that that had already been changed from the original version of the book.
Right, he was originally yellow, like literally colored yellow.
Well, it was two things. He was colored yellow, and he was also referred to as a Chinaman.
Right. I recall that, but like
they may have actually changed it twice. I think they may have done the recoloring first and then changed China. I
mean, if you have a problem with it, they did the right thing. No longer publish that book. The idea that they would edit it, and just edit it out or replace it with a different drawing is just absurd. It just doesn't.
Right. Now, I'm not sure where I stand on Amazon. Well, maybe not Amazon. It's eBay. eBay's the one that was definitely blocking listings of the books. And I'm not sure how I feel about that. Technically, based on the books and why they were chosen to not print them anymore, do they fall under the hateful content policy? Yes. But that is different from the Seuss estate choosing not to publish them anymore. Do I necessarily again? I don't know how I feel about that, because that is going a little further, not letting people sell their used books like that. I'm not sure exactly where I fall with that yet. But again, it's that's not cancel culture. That's not cancellation. They made the decision on their own. Did they maybe announce it because of the controversy over Cat in the Hat being removed from one school district's reading day posters and stuff? Maybe. But even then, that was only done because it's okay, we want to actually make this more about reading than Dr. Seuss. And again, that's not cancellation. They decided on their own not to publish anything anymore after it had been in print for 60 years. Come on. That's not cancellation. Right. Putting a disclaimer on a few, I want to say it was single-digit percentage episodes of The Muppet Show that have things that are not quite politically correct anymore. That's not cancel culture. The Dumbo thing's not cancel culture. If there is a here's the other thing too. A few years ago, when people started using cancel, and that eventually led to the term cancel culture, they were using it for people who just were what's the word I'm looking for? Shunned for really objectively terrible shit. I feel I remember first hearing it after the R. Kelly documentary or something like that.
Right.
So I mean, even then, the usage as it was has kind of been co-opted. It's a whole thing. But again, now the right-wing talking heads have gone so far in the direction where they're very obviously just bullshitting. It's okay, this is just not a thing. Maybe there is a thing that vaguely resembles the term as it initially existed. Maybe. I don't necessarily think so. But The thing you are talking about does not exist.
Right. Right. Oh man, how did we get into this conversation? Hogan, right, right.
Well, that was the thing we were going to talk about anyway.
Right.
That was the thrust of it. So,
right. No,
like,
I mean, yeah, I mean, basically, it's pretty clear that, if you're someone who's got some sort of fame or some sort of money, you can get away with anything, really. You know the right people in the right places, and you're able to get through whatever it is that you need to get through, and still, time will tell, I guess, how Hogan is viewed in the history of the wrestling industry and the business. But as long as he's alive, he'll always have a place in pro wrestling, obviously.
yes. Oh, boy. Oh, we have breaking news. Actually, this came 3 hours ago, but I didn't notice it till now because of what folder it went to. Someone who actually was subscribing to my Substack replied to the thing about the Matt Morgan tweet from earlier.
Yeah.
Saying this. And honestly, like, I was expecting worse when I saw the direction it was going in, so it's honestly not that bad, but still, you trying to be the Taylor Lawrence, they actually misspelled her name. It says Lawrence with a T of wrestling. This is hall monitor stuff. Well, I guess I know who else he's following on Substack.
What?
He's saying that this is the equivalent of the people that Glenn Greenwald calls hall monitors focusing on bad words or whatever the hell. But it's like, no, it's someone who's being tied into a potential sex trafficking investigation, deleting a tweet with him that shows him pictured with the target of the sex trafficking investigation and he deleted it at a time when there would have been no immediate catalyst that we know of for him to do it.
Right.
So, evidence.
Well, Greenwald.
That was
Greenwald recently wrote about Matt Gaetz, so I'm sure that's how it got all wrapped up in there.
Oh, he did. What did he say?
How? I don't really want to get into it, but Greenwald basically said how Matt Gaetz is just being alleged of doing things, and by the way, 17 isn't a minor.
Oh, of course he did. Well, I guess he's officially a libertarian.
I mean, I don't want to get into it. We could.
Oh, I see now. Raw story. Glenn Greenwald defends Matt Gaetz' right to have sex with quote unquote consenting 17-year-old girl. Well, there you go.
Yeah. I don't feel like getting into that whole thing.
No, but I mean that's where the hall monitor term came from.
All right. Because earlier today, I saw Greenwald go after some people for really nothing. He got a.
Did these people have uteruses?
Some of them do. He had tweeted at Sam Cedar and Emma Vigeland. And Vigeland. I always forget how to say her last name. I do a show with her every week. I can't believe I still can't say her last name. Vosh and Ben Dixon. Basically, just some petty disagreements he has with them over, his opinion on other takes. Where, on Brazil, guy is does great work, and he is a huge part of why Lula will be able to run against Bolsonaro in the upcoming elections. And, he was taking credit for that, which rightfully so. He did great work there, like he often does. But then out of the blue, he just has to knock other people for seemingly no reason. I don't get it, because those people will agree that he does great work on other issues, and that great work he does on those other issues is why they're so disappointed on his other takes. Do you know what I mean? Like, no one's ever knocked his actual reporting bona fides when it comes to...
Yeah, when he does actual reporting, like, it's always solid. I mean, he's... In the grand scheme of things, I don't think he's done as much as people think he has.
Well, I think over time, I think he has...
But he's undoubtedly done some incredibly important reporting.
There's reporters who constantly get stories, whereas I think Greenwald is someone who it doesn't come in drips and drabs, doesn't come as a flow. He has, I would say, like, you could name his big story, the Stone NSA, his work on the
Project Car Wash.
Yep. Also Brazil and Lula. I mean, he has big stories that are very separate. There's times where you don't hear anything from him, but when he's got something,
And that's
it's
kind of, I
big.
mean, that's similar to how I try to do things too, but sometimes it feels like he doesn't pursue stories. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if that's the case or not, but like, it feels like he kind of waits for stories to come to him.
Right. Right. I mean, that's
Which is
that's
fine.
fine. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
that's why I don't have a problem criticizing Glenn Greenwald. In fact, you can see I went back and forth with
I
him.
do enjoy criticizing Glenn Greenwald.
Thank you. But I have I did say Glenn Greenwald, right? I have gone back and forth with him recently on Twitter. Glenn does respond to me, at least. I know he follows me, and I know he, from what I've been told, he had nice things to say about when Michael Brooks and I would co-host the Majority Report years ago together. And one of the reasons why I've been so disappointed in his more recent takes is because I do respect the work he's done. I mean, and I think a lot of people, I would say that all those people he name dropped, Sam Cedar, Emma, Ben Dixon, Vosh, I would say. I mean, I don't know Vosh all that well compared to the other people he named, but I would venture to guess that all four of them feel the same way, where they respect his work, and that's why it's been so hard to criticize him.
Oh, I agree, and also I think the respect that, I mean, everyone has for his actual reporting, I think also just increases the disappointment. Like, I don't think anyone's disappointed in Barry Weiss. You know what I mean? Like, I think everyone just kind of just shakes their head at Barry
No, that's the
Weiss.
thing. Greenwald has, he's always had, uh, he hasn't always fit in, like, it's let's put it this way. His general takes are not that surprising to me, because I've always known, like, he doesn't align perfectly on the left.
Sure.
He is like a more libertarian guy. He's a lawyer who comes from that old, like, ACLU line of thought where, like, everyone has a right to this. And how the ACLU, a lot of people don't realize, they defend, or have a history, at least, I don't know if they do it anymore, but have a history of defending nefarious people's rights too. Like, they would defend the KKK's right to hold rallies and marches and represent them. And I totally...
If it was the state keeping them from doing.
Yes. You know what I'm saying. They defend.
But I think that's an important distinction to make.
Absolutely, yes. And I think I agree with that stuff. Again, I don't think I personally would put myself forth and die on that hill, but I do agree with that when it comes to I do agree with that position. So that wasn't surprising to me, but it's the specific issues that he's sort of just focusing on and spending all of his time on, especially when it comes to the issue of trans rights. Like, I don't understand why he is so focused on this one. I just don't. I don't get it. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. It's honestly like profound confusion more so than anything from me at times, because it's like, what does he even gain from this? This is not like a position where he's like being like holding up like and I'm not gonna. I can't recall every take he's had. I just am generally talking about his recent focus on this issue broadly, which has brought him so much criticism. I'm not going to put words in his mouth. I'm not going to, because again, I didn't prepare for this. This is an off the cuff rant of just my general feelings of seeing this play out over the past couple of weeks. I just don't understand, besides what he's been saying, aside from what he's been saying, which again, I can't point to anything specific off the cuff right now. There's been some takes I recall seeing where I was just like, what's going on here, man? I just broadly don't understand why he's so focused on this one. It's not like an issue where he's a brave truth teller, where, the big bad government is on the other side and he's fighting the good fight against them. Like, it's just like, I don't understand why he's so focused on this. That's my overall confusion, I guess.
And I mean, there's also the whole thing that seems to rightfully be bothering a lot of people is how he and a lot of the people who are kind of in lockstep with him on this are gay men or lesbian women.
Right.
Like,
I will say this. There are a number of takes I've seen thrown at him, which I think are unfair. I think again, I can't speculate his own, whatever is going on. Why do these, why? Again, I also don't know if he's always held these opinions and just wasn't so vocalized about them. Like, my thing generally right now is I don't get why he's so focused on these things, like going out with them and talking about them and constantly writing about them and tweeting about them.
right.
That's
Like,
my main issue.
Like, it's different from someone like Dan Savage, where, like, Dan Savage had always not been the best on trans issues. When he started pointing at these folks a few weeks ago, like, a bunch of people pointed out, like, this isn't a surprise. With him, it did kind of seem to come out of nowhere with Greenwald.
Right. Sisyphean Task in the YouTube chat says, remember Greenwald was an ardent defender of neo-Nazi hacker Weave? Well, listen, I don't recall exactly what he said about Weave, but I should say this. One of my first interviews when I was hosting on the Majority Report was with Weave's lawyer, and I wasn't defending Weave, but the issue, and this is also, I should note, before all his history and his tattoos and all that came out, so that too, but also what Weave went to jail for, I think is also bullshit and sets a bad precedent. Again, it wasn't defending Weave, the individual, but, I think don't recall exactly what Glenn said, but I think it is bullshit why Weave went to jail. I mean, also I think, Glenn gets a lot of stupid shit from people who think, who throw conspiracy theories at him. Like he's like like paid to cause disruption and just as like a provocateur. Like, I don't believe that for a second. I just think he's someone who, for some reason or another, has decided to focus on these issues. My personal take is that he has had feuded with the general centrist Democrats for so long that he's just sort of become a contrarian to them for the sake of being one, and is just anti whatever their position is for the most part. I mean, we see that with a lot of people, honestly. This isn't a Greenwald specific thing, but they get so caught up in like the criticizing the Democrats, which I totally get. I criticize them all the time on this show, but I feel like I also am able to put it into perspective and realize that they're also the Republicans are just as bad in the issues we don't like Democrats at, and all the other issues they're even worse on. So, I feel like a lot of people, not a lot of people, but there are people on the left who do get into that habit of they get into these feuds with the Democrats and the centrists and the moderates, and they just fall into this hole of just being like more anti-Dem than anything. And they just ignore, or even like, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. In the example of some people teaming with the right to go after the Dems.
Yeah, I don't really have much to add to that, I don't think.
Yeah, but it's I didn't really want to talk too much about that, but we did.
By the way, too,
I did see him. He deleted it, but I did see him tweet something earlier about Michael Brooks. And I just want to ask that, not even for me, but just for the general respect of someone who can't speak for himself, unfortunately, anymore. Can people please stop acting as if they knew Michael more so than the people who Michael saw every single day of his life? Like, it's like really weird to me. Like, there are people who I like who have done that in recent feuds with Sam Cedar, for example, that I just don't understand why they think they can do that. Like, it's possible that Michael would have disagreed with Sam, Of course, but you don't know better than that. I mean, you don't know that. So please, please, for the sake of strengthening your own arguments or positions, please just stop putting words in someone who can't speak for themselves. It's just really disrespectful. And I'm glad that he deleted that tweet. Maybe he realized it was wrong. But just, just I don't know what the fetish is of people for people to do that.
Yeah. And by the way, since it came up, and I was just thinking about it too as I was scrolling through one of those articles as you were talking, just as far as the Gaetz thing, I guess just to bring it full circle before we finish up, there probably does need to be a conversation about how the age of majority in this country maybe should be higher.
Oh.
Especially for consenting to sex with an adult, because, 16, 17, 18 are all arbitrary.
It's all arbitrary. It's all arbitrary. I mean, but you can argue arbitrary. I wouldn't. Obviously, I'm with you that obviously those Romeo and Juliet laws would need to be fleshed out more if the age of consent did rise.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
Because that's probably where most people would actually get hurt and in trouble. But there are people, like, for example, I recently had a video about Nick Fuentes where they would argue that arbitrary number, that number is arbitrary in the opposite way and say, why not 14, 15? You know what I mean? Like,
but there's a good reason for that, which is that the brain doesn't finish developing until you're about 25. That's the issue. And why it's only rental car companies that went in that direction, I have no idea. Right? Like, is there anyone else that puts a 25 cap on, or 25-year-old minimum on anything?
According to Obamacare, you're no longer a child when you're 26, because that's when you can't be on your parents' plan anymore, which is good. Honestly, okay. I think that's a good. It should be. So it should be high. I think it should be higher with a more fleshed out, broader Romeo and Juliet age length.
Right. As someone you're going to school with should not, outside of K through 12 school, someone you're going to high school with, or are able to go with, would have been able to go to high school with, that should obviously not be statutory rape.
Right. And also, I think you should extend it for certain ages there with, college students too, because you could be,
right, of course.
You could be a junior in high school who's dating a freshman or a sophomore in college. You know what I mean?
Right. I think a lot of them have it as 6 years.
Right.
And I think that's fair.
Right. Because, there's been, because that's sort of where, obviously these laws are made to protect people, but also you have these horrible stories where people are put on the sex registry list because their parents, their girlfriend's parents,
girlfriend was 17.
Yeah, their girlfriend's parents didn't like the guy, and so they got him arrested, and yeah.
But that would, for this to happen, though, would also require probably actually
I never got
doing this at the federal level.
First of all, I never got why 18 and 19 was considered an adult to begin with, being that they're literally still teenagers. Like, the word teen is right there in the age. I never really got that. Like, we're really supposed to, like our teenage years apparently are just 13 to 17. That's like 4 years. That's weird.
Maybe whoever came up with the names for English language numbers was really into quote unquote teen porn. And needed a plausible way to. I don't know.
Also, I don't understand why alcohol is 21 and
singer why was it separate? There used to be more states that
but
disagreed on
smoking is 18.
Well, no, smoking I think is 21.
No, smoking is maybe in certain states, but smoking is not.
That might be state by state. Yeah. Okay.
What about,
I think federally it changed to 19 at some point. It's all over the place. And, and there also used to be just all sorts of, it's the stuff you see with guns and now to some degree. People who lived in, New York, New Jersey border areas, up by Greenwood Lake and, near, a little bit near Orange County, New York. They would go across the border. I forget which state was 18, which was 21, but in the 60s, they just drive a few minutes and go across the border and get beer there.
Right. This is we got a question here for you, by the way, before you go. Super chat from Daniel C.
Wait, if it's a question for me in the super chat, does that mean I get the money?
Oh, well, if you want, I could Venmo you $5, and I'll put it's for salad. Uh, do you have any details on Mike Tomlin being an ambassador for Operation Underground Railroad? He seems to be the most famous celeb on their website. I looked up Mike Tomlin really quick because I'm not familiar with that name because I'm not a sports person. He was a coach for the Steelers.
I had heard about this. I haven't looked into it that much. He does appear to be the most prominent booster of theirs, like as far as like sports media, Hollywood celebrity types. But I haven't looked into it much. I mean, the people who have done the really deep dives on the Operation Underground Railroad stuff so far are Tim Marchman and Anna Merlin. I used to say Merlan, but I believe it is Merlin Advice, who I don't know if I planted the seed with them. I think I probably did a little because Tim was the editor on the story I did. But, like, they've done two phenomenal stories. Like, one about how they exaggerated their missions and stuff. Like, they found the testimony of a girl they said they rescued that turned out to have really escaped on her own. And then, a bunch of other stuff like that. And then they did the follow-up last month, I believe it was, where they got accounts of like their ridiculous missions and just recruiting people on Facebook and stuff. So like, I mean, there's clearly a lot more to be uncovered with them. I don't think anyone's found anything outright corrupt yet, other than just stuff that's public, like how much Ballard is paid to run the charity. But I'm sure there's more that's coming in some form. I'm sure Tim and Anna are still looking at it.
There you go. All right, David, thank you so much for joining me extra long tonight. I know you were already exhausted when I'm already exhausted, but I know you were already exhausted when we went into the second half. But
it's this weather.
Yeah.
I think that's a lot of it. It's that we've had our first like string of like rainy, humid days, and it's just exhausting.
Oh wait, someone pointed out. We had a few people pointing out in the chat the like ages where like you can, the age to drive is 16, right? I mean.
Well, not at some states. I think license, I think in most states is 17 with learner's permit at 16, and then California and some others are a year earlier.
We got another comment in the chat from Pranay. It's 14 for going to jail. I think that's the truth in certain cases. Obviously not every 14-year-old is treated the same.
Oh, as far as being tried as adults?
Yeah, like you'd have to be like, murder or something.
And I think that's only for certain types of crimes. Yeah.
18 is voting. R-rated movies, 17 plus, obviously, which is a bizarre age. Why 17 and not 16 or 18? You know what I mean? Like, that's a weird age for movies. Why 17? Yeah.
Well, I mean, all of that's weird, too, but that's not the law.
I mean, voting age is 18, but that should be younger. I mean, I feel like...
I mean, that should be younger, yeah, because that's not about, are you... like mature enough to make adult decisions, like especially the way the country's laid out with the electoral college.
I mean, you literally can just read about the candidates and decide who you want to vote for. That's not I mean, if you can read and understand what the words you're reading mean, then you can vote, in my opinion. I mean,
yes. And I mean, you see increasingly a lot of teens increasingly seem to be really engaged with politics.
Hey, there's younger people who are smarter than a lot of adults. Young people are smarter than me. Younger people, I don't see. I'm saying that like I'm smart, but my point is there are younger people who are wise well beyond their years. That's my point.
Right, they can be smart. It's the like emotional intelligence is what takes more time, and voting doesn't really necessarily require that much.
Right.
And being an educated voter. So like that, yeah, that should be younger. But again, it's still going to be an arbitrary number.
Wait, before you go, Manny with the super chat here. Venmo David $5, but let's not libertarian the age of consent right now. There's no answer, especially with racial dynamics. Yeah, it's a good point, but I don't think, I'm not.
How people of color would be disproportionately punished for Romeo and Juliet type stuff, especially.
Absolutely. But that's why I brought that up. And also, I don't know I don't know what to advocate for there. I mean, I think 18 does sound like uh, uh, a decent age for that to be. But I was just talking out loud, pondering out loud how they came upon that number 18. Like, why would it not be 20 when you're like the word teen is no longer in your age? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
why did we decide 21 is an adult? Why not 20? Why not that
There
year
must be
you're
someone
no
who's done
longer
research on
like why
this.
not that year you're no longer a teen? 20. Like 20 is such a weird age to be, right? Like you're not a teen, but you're not an adult. What are you when you're 20 years old? I don't remember. I mean,
Right, like, or even like throw another year, make it 21, whatever. Like, I'm curious. I'm sure there's research into how 18 became the like general like age of adulthood.
and
But
why do we let kids drive at 16? I think that's weird. Like
15 in some states,
that's a
if we're
huge
going with permits.
right. That's a huge responsibility. Basically, handing them a weapon per se. You know what I mean? Like and guns. You could have a gun at 18, right?
I mean, depending on the type. I mean, be the registered owner of a gun or use a gun legally.
You could. I'm not sure, but I know you can do something with a gun at 18, right?
I mean, I mean, kids who come from hunting families and stuff, absolutely. Like, I don't think they're all breaking the law if they're using a gun or handling a gun below a certain age. So, I mean, it's really lower than that.
Right. Right.
Anyway.
Zoe says, I mean, 18 is arbitrary, but that doesn't mean it's wrong. Right. I'm just wondering how it even
Well,
gets to that.
but again, we're not going with the libertarian point of view. We're going with no, it should probably be higher.
Right.
The libertarian point of view is that it shouldn't exist.
Right.
Yeah, an age of consent. I mean, it obviously should exist. It should probably be higher.
Austin says 20 is as arbitrary as the minimum wage. It's just a number decided on via compromise. Right, but I think, I think that's a good point, actually. But also it's a bit, it's not, the minimum wage is not a scientific thing. The minimum wage should just be connected to the current cost of living, which means it should always be changing.
Well, I mean, which is scientific in a way, but not brain science. No.
Right. But the idea that unless we evolve at some point, which I mean, obviously we will, but I mean, the age being arbitrary really shouldn't be a thing. I guess unless we're talking every couple hundred years, you know what I mean? Like, when's the last, I guess Neanderthals maybe had a different point of view of what the age of consent should be, because maybe the Neanderthals' age of consent, they were matured differently or something. I don't know. That's my funny point there. All right, David, I don't want to hold you any longer. I know you've been staying up late with us. I really appreciate it. Folks, don't go anywhere. I got some videos to play. But David, thank you so much for joining me on this bonus content tonight. Yeah. Always a pleasure when you join me. Always a great time.
Indeed. Thank you so much.
Take care. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Bloop, bloop. What are we going to talk about? Oh, let me get to these super chats. Then I have a few videos, just maybe 2 or 3 videos. Samantha Sider with a super chat. Got the first shot yesterday. Pissed I got no 5G upgrade. Oh, you didn't get the right shot then. You needed to get the one with the 5G upgrade. Otherwise, I don't know if you're properly vaccinated, Samantha. Damn cute with the super chat of 420. Very clever. Salads on me tonight, Matt. Thank you, damn cute. But salad on you would be, in terms of what you're referencing would be like, a couple $100, but I get it. Thank you. Midnight Pizza Man with a $4.69 super chat. David, tell us about, I forgot to say this with him on. David, tell us about the love box-like structures. Right, that was the reference to the love hotels, right? Samantha Sider with another super chat. You got that 5G chip implanted in you yet, Matt? No, I didn't get vaccinated yet. I have to get on that. No reason. When I looked, it wasn't available, and I haven't been on top of looking as much as I should have. And I was still in that mode for a while of letting people go ahead of me because I'm not over the age of 65, and I'm not in a category that puts me at a particular risk. But now that it's opened up to everyone, at least in New York, I will be getting on top of that ASAP. Phil B with a $20 super chat. Greetings from 40 minutes in the past. We'll catch you more live one of these days. Love what you do, brother. Thank you so much, Phil B. Really appreciate it. Ryan Smith, who fielded that question earlier to Bixenspan, but with another super chat. Are you worried about getting the vaccine? Stacking a vaccine on top of natural antibodies has historically caused hyperimmune responses. I'm not familiar with what you're talking about, honestly. I'm not worried about getting the vaccine at all. First of all, this vaccine is... first of all, I mean, I've been vaccinated many times before in my life, so I'm not worried about any of that. I mean, when we're born, we receive... I mean, I have two young kids. I can tell you right now from memory that they received a number of vaccines. I feel like a dozen vaccines. I mean, I don't understand what the worry is about these vaccines. I mean, I get the conspiracies, but I don't understand the legitimate worries from people who aren't reading conspiracies. Because I mean, I don't. I mean, obviously, in terms of all medications, there could be a reaction or a side effect for people. And for example, with that Johnson & Johnson vaccine, there were 6 people out of 6 million who developed a blood clot. I mean, I'm not worried. I had the Skype thing up still. Whoops. And on top of that, these vaccines, the mRNA, right? Which is Moderna is a play on that mRNA. The way it works is they're not even injecting you with a version of of COVID. They're basically injecting you with in from what I understand in layman terms, is like the battle plan. The it's telling your immune system what it needs to do to fight COVID. I mean, that's it. Manny D with a $20 super chat. Thank you, Manny D. Jeez, 2 $20 super chats from 2 different people today. I love it. Get your kids some V-Bucks, brother. I will. For those of you, my son actually hasn't played Fortnite in a while. We have to get back on top of that, and I will get him some V-Bucks. I promise. Justine K with a super chat. It's been disturbing watching people say Michael would think, especially when directed at Sam. It feels underhanded and incredibly poor taste. I really don't get why people do that at all. I don't understand what the point is. I don't understand. I don't understand it. I don't even. I feel like I should stop there. I don't get it. I don't even say that. And I feel like I have a pretty damn good feel for where Michael would have stood on things based on my nearly 5 years of working side by side to him. Well, he didn't come right away to my job. So nearly 4 years of working side by side with him every single day, and then continuing that friendship. Obviously not as close because I wasn't seeing him every day anymore, but continuing that friendship and talking with him online and having these conversations, talking about family life. And, I know where he would generally land on things. I can't say, though, in my opinion, where he would land on things now, because I don't know. I don't know. Regardless of me having a feeling, thinking I have a good feel for things, I would never continue try to do that. It's just, I mean, what's next? Someone's gonna say he would have been a staunch defender of Jimmy Dore. I mean, that's sort of what someone did say, right? I mean, what I use that as an example because we have years and years of proof of Michael's opinion on what Jimmy Dore's trajectory was and what Jimmy Dore was saying. I mean, I just don't get it at all. Don't get it at all. Manny D says, I don't like Sam's politics. I loved Michael, but let's not focus on conjecture like that. We can dislike Sam without bringing up Michael. Right. You can. And also, I think you have to realize that, I mean, just because Sam's personally got a disagreement with you on certain issues, he's the one who gave myself and Michael and Emma and literally hundreds, if not thousands of guests a platform over the years to share our thoughts because, you know, he's not anti them. He just has a different opinion. And I think there's a huge difference there. Someone could be supportive of something and not agree with it completely. Like, I don't get people who think Sam Cedar is an enemy because he is a more of a social democrat. Literally, Sam is probably exactly the same place where Bernie Sanders is, if not more left than Bernie in a number of issues. Honestly. So, like, the idea that you'd like Bernie Sanders, but think Sam Cedar was not the same as on the same with you. Like, Sam is probably exactly where Bernie is, and then on the left of certain things too. Take it easy. And Jamie, right? Jamie Peck. Absolutely. Jamie of the Antifada. No doubt. She was there for a long time, and he disagreed with her on a lot of things. Let me give you guys a few more moments if you have any super chat questions or comments you want to throw in, and I'll read them for sure. I have a few videos I want to get to, so let's do that. Not too long. The show's already long, but I have a video or two to get to. Which one should I hit up first? Which one should I get to first? Oh, this is great. This is great. Now, give me 1 second here. So, my pillow. Oh, my voice cracked there. Let me reset that. Oh wait, I got to read the super chat from Matty really quick. I understand that, Matt. My BB man? What does that mean? But Sam also gave Tim Pool a platform, but it's okay. I appreciate Sam, but I'm a communist. He's not my enemy. Here's the thing that you might not know when you talk about giving Tim Pool a platform. Are you talking about the debate they had? Because that's not a platform. That's debating someone and making them look, in my opinion, in that specific debate, making them look not good. That's not... I would debate anybody on this show. But if he's about giving him a platform, like having him on during the Occupy days, bad news, buddy. Who do you think reached out to Tim Pool to book him? Wasn't Sam. And to be completely clear, it was me. It's Manny says Sam brought Tim onto a show during 2010 to 2012. Right. I know. Who do you think reached out to Tim Pool? You guys have to realize though that Tim Pool is not the usual case of someone always having had that politics. Tim Pool was literally just a live streamer then, and was fairly supportive of Occupy too in his coverage of it. He's not someone who, like, you platform someone who always had those politics. He was literally, he was just a guy who was down there live streaming, sympathetic to Occupy. Like, there was nothing to show that he was doing bad with him in 2010, 2011. Oh, 2010, not even. 2011, 2012. All right, let's play this clip. So, my pillow guy, Mike Lindell, he's been banned from the social media platforms like Twitter because he just wouldn't stop spreading the big lie. That is the lie that Donald Trump should still be the president of the United States because the presidential election of 2020 was stolen from him. He put out a documentary, which OANN aired, I should say, by the way, with a huge disclaimer up front because he paid for the time to show it. And they didn't want to get sued by Dominion Voting Systems, who, by the way, is also suing Mike Lindell because Mike Lindell will not stop spreading this big lie that Dominion Voting Systems basically changed the results to make Donald Trump lose, which, for my own purposes, if it's not clear, so I don't get banned from YouTube, is a big lie. Dominion Voting Systems did not do this. But he's out there anyway, continuing to say this stuff. And his latest big point of conversation, I guess you can say, is that to fight back against the social media companies, he is going to start his own free speech social media platform. I don't know if he's going to call it My Pillow Talk, maybe My Pillow Space, My Pillow Stir, Face Pillow. I have no idea. You Pillow. I don't know what he's going to go with, but if you're wondering exactly if this free speech platform will have any rules, I can tell you this. It's going to have a shit ton of rules. And for what I just said right there, I probably would be banned from it right away, if not pre-banned, meaning I couldn't even sign up for saying what I just said. And if you're wondering what I'm talking about, let me play the video that'll explain it to all of you right now. Oh, wait, got to put the sound up. 1 second. Here we go.
Now, people ask me, Eric, they said, you're going to let everything go, porn and swearing and everything? I said, absolutely not.
So I should say he's on the Eric Metaxas radio show. And I will give you guys a hint. You should stick around for the very end when Eric Metaxas will make you completely fall out of your seat in a fit of laughter. He will steal this clip. You'll think it's insane that someone could take this clip from Mike Lindell, but Metatexas does it completely unaware and inadvertently. But stick around for that. But anyway, let's get back to Mike Lindell talking about how his free speech platform will definitely not be full of free speech. That'd be ridiculous.
And here's why. We have a thing we found in the Constitution and our founding fathers that defines what free speech is. And Eric, get this, this Judeo-Christian platform we're going to have here, they go by biblical principles. They get to the Supreme Court, you have the 10 Commandments there. And you'll see our definement there. So in other words, you can't, you're not going to have porn up there. You're not going to have these sites that contain material that go against our Constitution, go against what our founding fathers put in there.
You should know that this thing in the Constitution that he found, he's just searching the Constitution because it's such a long thing and no one really knows what's in it, right? The thing he's talking about is the thing that lets all these platforms decide what they want on their networks. Like, I mean, yes, your free speech platform can have rules because it's your platform. Obviously, you can decide how to run it. But let's continue hearing what Mike Lindell has to say.
Really defines what free speech is. For example, swearing is now you're not going to be able to swear. There will be 4 words for sure you can't say. You can't say the C word, the N word, the F word, and you can't use God's name in vain.
Well, goddamn.
The concept, right?
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really
Right, here we go. Everything you just said, right? No, this free speech platform, no porn, no adult content, no cursing, no cussing. There'll be actual words banned. Jeez. And no taking the Lord's name in vain. Wow, there's tons of free speech, guys. Tons of free speech. You might say that, let's see what Eric Metatexas has to say.
Right?
Wow.
And, yeah,
That's really puritanical. I like it.
Now,
It still makes me laugh every time. Oh my God. Oh my God. Listen, when you hear someone say, wow, that sounds really puritanical, it's usually a bad thing. It's usually a negative thing, right? Right? You usually don't hear someone go, wow, I like it. Wow, that's really puritanical. I like it. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Thank you, Eric Metataxis.
concept, right?
Wow.
And, yeah,
That's really puritanical. I like it.
Wow. Unbelievable. What is this huge block of blocking my... What the hell is going on here? What the hell is going on here? This stream is... That's not supposed to be. What's going on here? What? Why? Was that in the way the whole time? God damn it. Oh, well, I'm not gonna... I'll have to put a Doomed logo there or something for the... Unbelievable. Anyway. Let's go to another clip that I have for you all. Let me just pull it up here. Oh, do I want to play this? I think it's... I'm not going to play the whole... I had a internal dialogue with myself about whether I wanted to air this clip. But there's a part of me that feels like, it is necessary up to a point. Give me a second to pull it up. So you might have heard about this case of another police shooting, this police killing. This time of a 13-and-a-half-year-old, I think he was, like 13 years old, Adam Toledo in Chicago. And the weeks leading up to the release of this video that came out today had the mayor, Lori Lightfoot, right? That's her name? Yeah. Let me make sure. Yeah. I always get her confused with someone else. Mayor Lori Lightfoot basically focusing on the fact that this kid, 13-year-old, allegedly had a gun. And the police said there was a confrontation between an officer and the 13-year-old Toledo. Again, confrontation of when you're talking about an armed individual makes it seem like there was some sort of situation where an officer's life was in danger, right? If you call something a confrontation and you say the other person had a gun. Well, the clip of the body cam footage was released today. The video of the body cam footage was released today. And it's not shocking. It's not shocking at all. Because we've come to expect this. But it's disgusting, and it's saddening, it's heartbreaking, it's maddening, I should say. It's sad and maddening. I put the words together. I'm not gonna. The clip goes on for way too long for what I want to air. But there's an important part that you need to see. In my opinion, and it just goes to show just how it doesn't matter what you do when a police officer already has the mindset that leads to the fact that you will die in this moment with the police. I mean, I don't know how he could have got out of this situation alive. This young kid, 13 years old. Let's play this clip. So the body cam doesn't have video, audio in the beginning. It seems like the officer then turns on the audio, realizing it's not on or something. Here it comes.
Please stop! Stop right fucking now! Hey!
He's shouting, "Stop right fucking now!" The 13-year-old is running from him. He comes across a opening in a wooden fence, and it appears in some other clips that he throws something behind the wooded fence. And from photos I've seen from the scene, it does appear like he had a firearm, a weapon, a small pistol of some sort. Whether it's real or not, I don't know. But he did have something that looked like a gun and possibly is a gun. But listen to what the police officer says. And then watch, if you're listening to the podcast, you can't see it. If you're watching on the stream, you can clearly see it. But I will walk you through it with a narration here, obviously. Just listen to what the officer says and how quickly you hear a gunshot.
Show me your fucking hand! Stop it! Stop!
Show me your fucking hand. Stop it. Cop stops in front of the 13-year-old. And here we go. His hands are going to go right up. He's already thrown whatever it was he threw, which seems to be a gun. Very well, it seems like it is. But he already disarmed himself, threw it behind a wooded fence. It's not near him, by him at all. And he goes to raise his hands exactly like you'll hear the officer tell him to do. And then listen to what comes right after. Just not even seconds. Let's rewind it a little bit more. I'm sorry.
Hey! Show me your fucking hand! Stop it! Stop it!
And that's, I don't want to stay on that shot, but I do want to focus on the fact that his hands are raised, nothing in his hands. He was listening to what the police officer told him to do. Now, I don't get how someone could defend this. I mean, what we're basically saying is that we are giving if you defend this, you're basically saying you give the police the right to kill you no matter what you do. I mean, if they are told that you are armed and they come to the scene, it doesn't even matter technically if you're armed. If they come to the scene with the belief you're armed, no matter what you do, even if you completely comply with what they're requesting of you, it's too late. It's too late. There's nothing you can do. Is that what you want? Like, I don't understand. Is that the policing you want? I mean, I'm sure there are people who do. They're truly sad, demented people. But like, if you are thinking like I don't even understand how you can argue that like, oh, because he was running away from the cop. So okay, but he complies then. I mean, it seems like to me he was just trying to get rid of the gun. I mean, I can't speculate here to be past that, but the fact that he stops right in front of the opening in the wooded fence and throws the gun right away and then turns around and raises his hands. I mean, but aside from that, he listens to the officer right away when the officer says to raise his hands. If you watch the clip from where it starts, The cop's not chasing him for long. In fact, the kid's already running before the cop even seems to be pursuing him completely on foot. It seems to me like the kid saw the cop car arrive, and his first thought is to get rid of the gun, not to run away from a cop who's chasing him, because the cop isn't even chasing him yet. I mean, I don't know what else to say here. A 13-year-old young man, boy, really boy. 13-year-old is a boy. It's not a man. 13-year-old boy shot and killed because he probably would have been better if he kept running. Honestly, he stopped, turned around, put his hands up exactly like the officer requested of him. Didn't even matter. Shot and killed right away. Not even given a second. I mean, that clip, man, it's just something else, you know? And let's play another clip here. Oh, here we go. Now, I'm not going to give this guy credit at all. The amount of harm he's done, the overwhelming horribleness over many, many, many years he's put out there, he gets no pass. But I'm playing this clip as an example of just how egregious these cases of these instances, I should say, of police brutality, of police murdered by the police are when it comes to George Floyd, Dante Wright, and now we have this clip I played earlier of Adam Toledo. It's so egregious. We're at the point where even religious right-wing firebrand Pat Robertson is even out there saying something's really weird. Something's going on here, and they got to stop it. Let me play this clip for you.
Also, I want to say, I think a lot of people are thinking, like I was, that both the gun and the taser would be put on your dominant side, but it's not that way.
They have to cross where they have them different.
So you actually have to reach across yourself to
you
get
feel
the
difference.
Yeah, it's definitely.
There's just no.
So here they're talking about, obviously, the senior cop. When I say senior, I don't mean old. I mean like a longtime cop, veteran, who she and we have the clip of the video of her from her body cam. They're trying to arrest Dante Wright. He is putting up a bit of a struggle. He gets in his car. None of these are offenses to murder someone over. He is unarmed. He gets in his car to try to escape the police. She pulls out a weapon, which is her gun. She's holding it out there for a really long time, right in front of her face, full view of the body cam. Don't see how she didn't see it. And she claims that she thought it was her. She shoots it, and then she goes, "Oh shit! I shot him. I thought I had my taser out." And so they're discussing Let me rewind a little bit so you could see the gun and taser up close. They're discussing how the gun and taser here. Here's Pat Robertson holding it. Look nothing alike, and B, are on opposite sides of the cops' belts here. So it's not like you reach on the right-hand side where they're both sitting and you could accidentally grab one, nor could you pull one out, visibly see it, and think you're holding the other. But let's continue playing this clip.
Just no comparison. As I say, they're not making tasers in this yellow color anymore. They're making they're in black. They're making them yellow. Now, how she made the difference was she shot that poor guy to death, saying, "This is what I thought. I thought was my taser." And if you can't tell the difference in the feel of those things, it's crazy. Anyhow, she deserves. But I am pro-police, folks. I think we need the police. We need their servants, and they do a good job. But if they don't stop this onslaught, they cannot do this. The police in Virginia picked.
Just want to say that's the best you'll get from him probably on that. So I would take it. I mean, he's not gonna come out and say ACAB. But listen to what he says. It's not giving him credit. What I'm doing here is showing that it is so over the top now from police that even right wingers who understand what public perception does are coming out and saying, you guys better get your act together because this is fucking ridiculous.
Up a lieutenant in the Army and began to give him trouble. And our state police are highly trained. But why they don't stop this? And this thing is going on in Minnesota, but the Derek Chauvin, I mean, they ought to put him under the jail. He has caused so much trouble by kneeling on the death of George Floyd. It's just, on his neck. It's just terrible what's happening. And the police, why don't they open their eyes to what the public relations are? They've got to stop this stuff.
Maybe they need more training.
I mean, the thing here is that officer who shot and killed Dante Wright, she was the trainer. She was, and same with Derek Chauvin. I mean, this is ingrained in the system, guys. I mean, again, I'm not expecting them to understand this stuff or want to understand this stuff. I'm not thinking they're going to come out and say defund the police. Pat Robertson's still a terrible person. And he still has horrible views. But I just want to show you that, like, the police are being so in your face about this that even someone like Pat Robertson is coming out and saying, at the very least, don't they care about how this looks? And to answer that question, no, they don't, because that's how the system is set up for them not to have to care. I mean, how many cops have gone to jail? How many cops have even been prosecuted? How many cops have even been fired? I mean, there's no punishment for these crimes, in my point of view. So why would they care about the public perception? And what else here? Do I have anything? I had a few other clips, but we'll save them for next week or hold them for another day. We'll see. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'll read a few more super chats, and that's the show. Manny chiming in on the Tim Pool revelation. OMG, it was you, baby. I still love you, LMAO. What is your kid playing these days? I will get you guys a game to play together. Oh, thanks, Manny. I bought him. We've been playing Fall Guys, which is the game I also did the live stream for 2 weeks ago. I'm gonna do another one soon. Renee with Super Chat. Dark Gritty, the Monster Breeder. Don't know what that means. Elliot with a coffee super sticker. Thank you, buddy. Renee with another Super Chat. They're just jealous of the Caliphate. Manny with another Super Chat. Have you watched the It's Not Even a Show? Get Chris on your stream sometime and tell me what your kid plays. I'll send you to a game or two. Oh, well, thanks, Manny. I'll reach out. I'll let you know. Let me discuss it with him, Rob with a $25 super chat. Love you and Sam Cedar. Thanks for everything you do. Thank you, Rob. Renee with another super chat. When you get detained by the police, you just have to fall to the ground and feign epilepsy, right? Maybe that is the best way. But then even maybe they'll get you on the way down thinking you're lunging at them or something, Are you going to talk about the Facebook scandal over Zeng's report of the Honduran president using bogus accounts? I'm going to reach out to someone to talk about that. Yes, there's a lot of things that have come up, which is why I would love to do more of this show. There's been a number of topics where I think I just won't be able to get to, honestly. So if you're not already a patron, I should say, patreon.com/Matt Binder. Also, just to let you guys know, I'm about to relaunch my newsletter. It is on Substack. I've decided, at least for now, to keep it on Substack. Only because it's there right now, and it's not, it's just there right now. And I honestly also do think that to just avoid a platform altogether is sometimes bad, as we can see with Facebook. I think I could talk more about that another day, but I think the move to get people to delete Facebook and boycott Facebook ended up not working in left-leaning people's favor. I missed Kowalski super chats. Kowalski says, Michael would want you to have my corn money. Thank you, Kowalski. And also Kowalski dropped a corn emoji and a tractor emoji in a completely separate super chat. Also, Austin dropped the $5 super chat. Thank you, Austin. So go to, back to my newsletter. Go to missinfo.com. Subscribe to that. The reason I've decided to relaunch the newsletter is because, I do want to relaunch the newsletter because I did a few articles in it last year, and they did well. In fact, one was used in a congressperson. One of the posts was used in a congressperson's open letter as a source. But it's come to my attention that, it's a very specific audience that watches live streams and listens to podcasts. And I do think I'm missing out on a whole audience that just reads. And I think that audience is honestly larger than the podcast listening and video watching audience. And I am obviously still doing this show. I'm telling you guys I'm doing something extra. I will probably launch a subscription for the Substack, which obviously would not be part of the Patreon. But I would give patrons the posts on Patreon because I'm not going to expect you guys to subscribe twice unless you want to. But the newsletter will be different from the media stuff in terms of it won't be wrapped up in the podcast and the live stream. I just think it's a different audience. But I'm also going to give it to you patrons because I want to thank you for supporting me. And of course, I'd funnel those people to listen to the podcast and watch the show. So misinfo.com, like misinformation, short for misinformation, MISINFO. I've also been thinking of starting a short form secondary podcast because I think there's a real gap in everyday tech news coverage in a way that doesn't talk about it how tech podcasts talk about it. I think this show talks about that a lot, but I think that the leftist slant and focus on the right wing that this show does might not be so appetizing to some normies. And I think there's a major gap in tech news that talks about what's going on at these companies that isn't filleting them. Because that's a lot of what tech coverage is. Not journalism in terms of written journalism, a lot of great, but in terms of podcasts and video stuff, I feel like it's just mostly this is the cool new product from Microsoft, or this is what the cool thing Elon Musk is innovating. And it's unless, you're reading the great investigative journalism that goes into some of that stuff, I feel like for some reason there's a gap in the multimedia world when it comes to that stuff. Wouldn't it be the morning quickie, Renee? No, it'd be very different from that. I'm just giving you guys a little hint of what's going through my mind and what's to come. Because it's the second half, and that's what I do. I give you guys a little bit of insight of what I'm thinking out here. Sisyphean says, I would love a tech podcast from a left POV. That's exactly what it would be. Again, I do a lot of the tech stuff from a left POV on this show, but I don't want to frame it that way for a more mainstream audience. Because I feel, it's really sickening to me how a lot of the mainstream talks about some of these tech innovators and the Silicon Valley influencer. It's like, what are you guys doing? And like, I do think a lot of everyday coverage about, like, you know, different new platform features or new technologies that come out. I think a lot of great investigative writing about this. But when it comes to, like, you know, think about your favorite YouTuber or podcaster, if you are into tech podcasts or tech YouTubers, it's like mostly like, oh, how great it is. This is awesome. I love it. It's exciting to me. And it's like, yeah, technology could be exciting, and, you know, it could be, but, you know, if it could also have detrimental effect on the world and the culture, and broader culture, I should say, they don't really focus on, honestly. And so that is something I'm thinking about doing. And it would be short form. It wouldn't be like these long form. Doomed would definitely be unique in its own. I would not take away from that. But, you know, like I don't know if I want to commit to daily, but really short form podcast, like 20, 30 minutes, running down, like, this is the new features and these big platforms, tech news here. This is the what they're talking about here, and this is why it matters. This is why, when Facebook has a new feature rolled out, the social media gurus might be excited about how they could leverage it to make their click-through rates higher. But this is what it actually means in the broader context, and how it'll affect, how it'll impact the discourse online, how it'll impact culture, how it'll impact politics, how it'll impact nefarious users, and also how it could impact in a positive way, obviously. I don't think, I think that's something I've been thinking about, and I'll let you guys know about that. And also, if you're not subscribed to the YouTube channel, I have, with the help of someone who I don't want to say, because they just reached out and volunteered to help me. They have been clipping the show for me, and I honestly cannot thank them enough. It's really been a huge help, and in some ways it's gotten me extra excited. I already love doing the show, but in the current ability I have as doing this very part-time, I get excited when I book a guest and when I'm preparing for the show, but I wish I could get excited about the show every day, but we don't put out content every day until this person volunteered to help me. And obviously I would never accept an intern or anything like that. This person convinced me that they are comfortable financially, and they just want to help the show because they really enjoy it, and they want to learn more about what goes into doing the show, and they just want to help the broader left-wing media, and that sold me, because I would never want someone who's like, who's not working or struggling for a job to be able to put time and effort to that, because it would just be, I want them to take care of themselves. So this person convinced me they were all good, and I honestly can't thank them enough. I've been putting out almost daily content. I think every weekday this week I put out a clip, and gotten lots of views on some of them. Gotten a decent amount of subscribers from some of them. And if you're not subscribed to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/Matt Binder, and you will see these clips. You will get these clips. The clips help people who don't watch live streams. Because, listen, I think we peaked today at like 225 people. All these audiences are different. Like I said, that's why I'm doing the thing. I'm not thinking. I am going to relaunch the newsletters in a couple of days. I am thinking about this tech podcast. These are all very different audiences. You would think they overlap because maybe you, as like a hardcore political head or someone who's really into current events and news, you would. That's me. absorb all of it. But this is very distinct audiences, and I see it from doing this show. The YouTube audience is not the same as even the Twitch audience. And the YouTube audience is not even the YouTube live stream audience is not even the same as the YouTube audience that watches the shorter clips. And obviously the podcast audience is completely different. And the people who just read written pieces are completely different. So, that's my little breakdown of all that. And Mariah says, "Oh my God, a Good Samaritan video editor doing your clips for you. I love it." Honestly, all I really needed, because this is the hardest, the most time-consuming part for someone who just doesn't have the time to put into it, is just someone to go through the clips and just, like the show, and clip out the good stuff. And that's what this person has been doing for me, and it's been an immense help. I've been able to do some cool thumbnails for some of them that I've been doing. But I wouldn't have been able to do any of it without this person being able to go through the most time-consuming part, which is the clipping. And for me, it's time-consuming because I'm already doing the show live, and then to go through it again, it's just a time suck, honestly. But to have someone be able to watch the show and do that is a huge help. So let me just read these final super chats, and that's it. RMT with a super chat of $15. Just no comment, no question. Just wanted to give me some props. Thank you so much. Mariah with a super chat. Been really enjoying all the clips lately. Thank you, Mariah. L with a super chat, which is a super sticker actually, with the pair doing some workout, and says keep it up. And B Buccaneer with a $10 super chat. Do you think that the bombardment of movies and television shows that justify police brutality has affected the way we see the police and the way the police see themselves, the Dirty Harry movies? I'm sure in some ways, for sure. Maybe it affects the public more, but the cops, I think this is more, I don't think any outside force is pushing it that hard for them. I mean, this is institutional. It's what they're taught. I mean, they're literally taught to always, like, they are always under attack. Like, that's literally what's being instilled. Like, you see it from the unions, from the higher ups. You saw it during the Black Lives Matter protests. There were clips. I've been meaning to do a video on this, actually, like a standalone edited video, not during the live stream. I like that Boogaloo Boy video I did. You saw it during Black Lives Matter, the clips that leaked from the NYPD. Just astounding clips of like the high ups and the commanding officers like hyping up the officers on the ground as if their lives are in danger or something. Like, just unbelievable stuff. Again, I guess not unbelievable, but really stunning stuff to see play out. And it's like, yeah, if your boss who's been on the force for like 40 years is yelling at you that like, we're not going to let them do this to us. Like, you're going to think you're under attack if you're some like rookie beat cop, you know? It's instilled in them from their training. It's institutional. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's the show for today. Thank you so much for joining me. Again, patreon.com/MattBinder, youtube.com/MattBinder, on all the social media platforms like Twitter, Instagram, @MattBinder, or search Matt Binder, doomedpod.com for the podcast. Oh, excuse me. And misinfo, short for misinformation, MISINFO, misinfo.com for the soon to be relaunched newsletter. Twitch.tv/MattBinder, of course. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for this really long episode today. Sticking around for this really long episode today. And I will see you guys all next time on Doomed.